This is a world of heroes wielding swords and magic. Heroes Continent. At this very moment, this place currently has a large-scale massive war taking place due to the Demon Queen launching an all-out war against all the races. With the help of the Demon Queen's oppressive strength, the Demon Queen's army was like a hot knife through butter in their attacks. And the empires of the various races fell to ruin, one after the other. Very quickly, only the human race remained steadfast in their resistance. But alas, because of the internal strife and rebellions amongst the humans, their empire collapsed along with their defenses. Humans surrender, and just like that, she was dubbed the strongest demon queen in history, Elizabeth, as well as secured her position as the only ruler of this world. It was a complete domination. At the human empire on the edge of destruction, a priest was still struggling and fighting with Demon Queen army. Priest shouted, telling Elizabeth to don't think she have won with this alone. In the future, she will definitely be defeated completely by their hero, just like in the legends, Queen's Guard. Kick that priest in face. He is human prince. Wis Malfoy, and the priest he just kicked is Wis Malfoy's teacher, Priest Barrow. Wis Malfoy asked Priest Barrow to please get things straight. Because right now, Her Majesty isn't asking for his opinion. She's giving him an order. Priest Barrow yelled that it's all bullshit. And Wis Malfoy is a patricide committing, enemy welcoming, traitor of the human race. Priest Barrow even cultivated him as if he were the prophesied hero in vain. Wis Malfoy get angry to hear Priest Barrow's nonsense. He told Priest Barrow since he missed Wis Malfoy's useless father of his so much, Wis Malfoy will just let Priest Barrow join him. Wis Malfoy unleashed his demon hand and transformed it into Demon's arm. But when Wis Malfoy strike at Priest Barrow, a dark shadow appeared behind him telling him to stay his hand. Wis Malfoy stop his attack right before it hit Priest Barrow. Wis Malfoy knees in front of that shadow. That shadow asked Priest Barrow that since he said that he will stand by human side in the future, and it will end Demon Queen's defeat, so he better explain what he mean to this queen, Oregon. Else his death would not be a easy one. The existence standing in front of Priest Barrow is Demon Queen, Elizabeth. Elizabeth threatened Priest Barrow by telling him that this queen has 1,000 different ways to make him suffer a fate worse than death. Priest Barrow was too scared to see his death in Elizabeth's eyes. He started telling her that the prophecy states that when the prophesied hero pulls out the holy sword, it will be the day the demon race's reign comes to an end. The holy sword is the sword embedded in the stone platform in the main hall. After telling her everything Priest Barrow said he will never tell her, he will never betray the human race. Priest Barrow has lost his mind to fear. Elizabeth looks at stone platform in which holy sword, Alpha, was embedded. The legends tell of the hero receiving the right to challenge this queen because he pulls out this sword. As Elizabeth put her hand on that holy sword, she thought that it's interesting. Elizabeth said this queen shall look forward to his arrival here then. Since then, Elizabeth was waiting, but the first year under Elizabeth's reign ended while wadding. Then second year under Elizabeth's reign ended while wadding, as well as third, fourth, and fifth year ended. And now it's the 15th year under Elizabeth's reign. Under the Demon Queen's absolute rule, all the past practices and inequalities amongst the races were all abolished. Everyone was able to get along on equal standing. Without disputes, everyone was able to live in peace and harmony, developing together. Very quickly, Heroes Continent began thriving and flourishing. Additionally, because they were afraid of the rare peace being destroyed, an anti-hero alliance emerged. They resolutely rejected the arrival of the prophesied hero. Demon Empire at the initial Human Empire meeting hall. Demon Queen Elizabeth asked her subordinate, do they have any news on the prophesied hero, Chancellor of the Elf race? Twillia reported to Elizabeth that the elf race has already mobilized all the tree insects to search, but they could not find a single piece of information regarding the prophesied hero, Chancellor of the Dwarf race. Heimerdinger told Elizabeth that the dwarves are not very good at collecting information, but according to the information compiled from every weapon store around, there has been nobody suspicious. Chancellor of the human race, Aristotle said that he believed that even if that prophesied hero does make his appearance, him standing up against them will be in vain, so they need not worry about him at all. Chancellor of the demon race, Jim whispered and told Aristotle that Her Majesty isn't afraid of the prophesied hero. Instead, she really wants him to come. In order to act in response to that prophecy, Her Majesty gathered all sorts of ancient books on magic and war tactics to research. Chancellor of the Beastman race, Muggle told Aristotle that as long as Her Majesty wills it, she could annihilate Heroes Continent in a split second. Twillia said that it's that idiot Barrow's fault. What prophecy? It's just a load of nonsense. With Her Majesty ruling it is their fortune. They can just let the prophesied hero die. Suddenly, someone entered yelling, "Reject the hero! Reject the hero in the hall!" Heimerdinger said, "Speak of Barrow, and he shall appear." Initially High Priest of the human race, now President of the Demon Queen Fan Club. President of the Anti-Prophesied Hero Association, Barrow Smith, he was shouting. "Support the reign of Her Majesty. The Demon Queen reject the arrival of the hero." Demon Queen with one flick of her finger grabbed Priest Barrow by neck. Elizabeth was too angry. She asked Priest Barrow to explain himself to this queen. "Where is that prophesied hero?" Priest Barrow was too scared. He told her that actually, the prophecy doesn't necessarily have to be accurate. When the target exceeds the expectations of the prophecy, like Your Majesty, for example. Miss Malfoy greets the Demon Queen and said that Priest Barrow is right. It is a great offense to take that stupid prophecy and apply it to Her Majesty. It is too great an offense. Her Majesty need not take offense in the slightest. This official has had new findings recently. Elizabeth hit Miss Malfoy with her tail, and in cold voice told him to get lost. Miss Malfoy was scared. He said he understood. Elizabeth threw Priest Barrow and shouted that her subordinates are bunch of trash. Elizabeth said, "The king have reached the peak of the world, holding the power of the world. She wait for the legendary hero to challenge her, and then become his stepping stone to fame. She have studied all the ancient magic books of the hero continent, and after countless hardships, she created the doomsday magic to wait for hero's challenge. But hero is nowhere to be seen. Where is he?" She was looking at the holy sword and getting angry thinking all this. Then she put her hand of the holy sword and said that since hero isn't coming to her. Jim, Twillia and all the Chancellor were scared, asking Queen Elizabeth that she don't mean to, Elizabeth shouted. "That she'll go to herself then." Elizabeth grabbed the holy sword and tried to unleash it. There was a huge shockwave of aura around Elizabeth. It was hard of Elizabeth to pull out the holy sword, so she used all her power to and concentrate on holy sword. All the Chancellors were scared to see Elizabeth's power. They couldn't believe that Demon Queen is really going to pull out Hero's sword. Suddenly, a huge energy light beam comes out of the rooftop of the Queen's palace, and the Demon Queen Elizabeth successfully pull out the holy sword. Elizabeth looks at the holy sword and thought that, who said that only the legendary hero can pull it out? She can do it too. When Elizabeth was holding the holy sword, she got a vision of a faraway mountain range, and on top of a mountain, there is a house. She thought that legendary hero is hiding there. Elizabeth raised her hand and used Labus magic. A magic circle appear. The magic she going to use was forced teleportation. When Miss Malfoy saw that she is going, he runs towards her asking her to please let him continue to serve her by her side. But he was too slow, and Elizabeth teleported. Miss Malfoy could only get her one hair. He was too sad because his master left him. On the other hand, at the newbie village, the legendary hero was wearing farming clothes and was holding an axe. He said that farming is too peaceful. His name is Leping. In reality, he is just an ordinary office worker, living a dull life, not fond of playing games or watching anime. The only pleasure is probably watching his favorite short videos on the way to work. When he was watching some short video, he said, "He's so envious. If only he could live like this too." And the next moment he teleported in this world. He was confused at first, but under the guidance of the newbie system, he slowly learned the basic survival skills here. He don't know anything about this different world at all, but it doesn't matter. Isn't this the kind of pastoral life that he want? His body is much healthier than when he was working. But one day while he was working, the newbie system told him that after this period of newbie training, Leping have fully met the conditions to leave the newbie village. So system asked him to please start his adventure. Leping asked system that isn't it fine now? Why do we have to leave? Newbie system told Leping that after leaving the newbie village, Leping will meet all kinds of other people in this world. He can learn various skills of sword and magic from them, become the legendary hero, and kill the Demon King. So please start your adventure. But system was shocked to hear that Leping don't want to kill any Demon King at all. Can't he just continue living here? System said. Of course not. Killing the Demon King is the player's mission. System message comes one after another asking Leping to please start his adventure. The system kept urging him to leave the newbie village and start an adventure, but besides nagging, it can't do anything to Leping. So to hell with what Demon King, Leping just want to live like this forever, because there is a special time barrier here that can completely hide the newbie village for safety, and inside the barrier, a day has far more than 24 hours of time perception, which also allows Leping to do more things he like. Leping do farming and level up, he do hunting and level up, he so forging and level up. He still know nothing about swords and magic, but for him who doesn't go out for adventure, those are not important at all. Through exchanging points from newbie tasks, he slowly built his ideal pastoral home from scratch. Until one day, newbie System get too angry at Leping. System yell at him that, how can he be this outrageous? In this world of sword and magic every day, he only know how to farm and fare, ignoring System's suggestions completely. How is this a legendary hero at all? Leping only know how to play with newbie points and exchange them for maintenance tools. He don't want to learn any sword skills or magic at all. System's various adventure assistance functions have no room to play at all. System hate it. System hope. Leping die soon by the Demon King, and then System crashed, and then disappeared. Leping was now free, and was doing farming to survive. And one day when Leping saw that the firewood seems to be running low, so he thought he should prepare some first. But he forgot to bring his axe back from the woods when he went out to chop wood in the morning. Suddenly, Leping noticed that dark clouds are forming with lightning. Leping said that there's no way at this time it will rain. But Leping don't know that it's not raining clouds, but it's a magic circle which Elizabeth used to teleport there. Elizabeth said that she finally found the legendary hero. But Leping ignores her and runs towards the house, shouting that it's going to rain heavily all of a sudden, and all his clothes and dried fish are going to get wet. Elizabeth was lost of words. Leping said, luckily he made it in time, otherwise his dried fish and sausages would have gone bad. Wang Kai, an electronic pet dog for companionship, comes running towards Leping. Wang Kai run around Leping to play, but Leping told Wang Kai to stop it, because it's about to rain, so hurry back inside. Suddenly, Leping hear a sound. When he looks at the sky, he saw something flying in the sky. He asked Wang Kai, what's that thing in the sky? Elizabeth told Leping that he is quite dull. How dare he address her as something? Leping said sorry to her, saying he didn't see it clearly earlier. Leping was thinking, why did someone suddenly come here? Isn't the newbie village supposed to be completely safe? Elizabeth decided to let's verify first if Leping is the hero or not. Elizabeth threw the holy sword at Leping. Leping asked her to wait, but it was too late. Leping was scared, so he covered his face by his hand. Elizabeth was surprised to see that the holy sword didn't hit Leping and turns around and get in his hand. Leping consciously grabbed to the sword and move it like the legendary hero. But he returned back to normal, was confused that something suddenly flew into his hand. Elizabeth was also confused to see Leping. What's going on? The recognition of the holy sword Alpha can't be wrong, but Leping's magic sensing ability is so low that even ordinary soldiers surpass it. She thought, could it be that Leping is hiding his true power? Elizabeth was very angry. She made a magic circle and shouted that she is Elizabeth, the strongest demon queen in history, and today, she shall completely obliterate Leping, the legendary hero. Leping get too scared when he hear that she is demon queen. Leping was thinking that why is she here when he haven't left this place? Wang Kai was barking at Elizabeth. Leping told Wang Kai to shut up. Don't provoke her. Leping saw that Elizabeth used her abyss magic, and many magic circle appeared in the sky. Elizabeth used extinction magic and summoned many giant rocks to throw at Leping. Leping understand now. As Tai System said, the meeting between the hero and the demon queen is inevitable, even if he never left the newbie village. Leping turned around and threw the holy sword. Now there's nothing more to say. He started waking towards his house, but his legs were shaking in fear. He was thinking that, so far he've been a newbie noob, but the final boss has come knocking. So besides accepting his fate, what else can he do? Leping grabbed his door and looks back, thinking perhaps he should be content. He have no regrets, knowing he could spend such happy times here. Leping goes inside the house thinking that in the end, he will return to zero with this home. Leping closed the door as he have accepted his death. But Elizabeth gets angry because what it looks like to her that Leping smiled at her and challenged her to come if she can. Elizabeth shouted that it's unbelievable. Leping is an arrogant bastard. She launched those giant rocks at Leping's house. When Wang Kai saw those rocks, suddenly, some commands started running in his mind. When those rocks were about to hit the house, Wang Kai's calculation was completed. From Wang Kai's stomach missile launcher and many more weapons pop up, Wang Kai turned into war robot and destroyed all those giant rocks with his missiles. After destroying that giant rock, Wang Kai started barking again at Elizabeth. Elizabeth said as expected, the hero from the legend dares to be so arrogant. It turns out he rely on having an advanced magical tool with awakened sentience. She unleashed her power, and said that in front of her everything is inferior. In the sky it looks like clouds are going to falling, but it was Elizabeth's apocalyptic magic. Elizabeth said, she've lost interest in probing the hero any further. So let's end it here. The magic she used this time is earth recasting. A super laugh energy ball started falling from the sky towards the beginner's village. Again, Wang Kai started calculating the attack power, and as his calculation completed, Wang Kai's mouth opened and a black energy ball started farming. When that black energy ball saw sufficient energy, then Wang Kai launched it at Elizabeth. Elizabeth easily dodged that black energy ball, saying it's useless. That black energy ball hit Elizabeth's super large energy and disappear. Elizabeth laughs and told Hero to disappear obediently along with this land. But to her surprise, Wang Kai's black energy ball was a quantum mechanical black hole. It blasted and absorbed Elizabeth's super large energy ball and disappear. Elizabeth was too stunned to see that her apocalyptic magic has been cracked. Elizabeth was scared, thinking, what did Hero Leping do inside the house to crack her magic? But little did she know that Leping was simply lying on his bed, all prepared and is waiting for death. Elizabeth comes down on the ground where Elizabeth was. She looks at Wang Kai. Wang Kai looks at her with anger while barking at her. Elizabeth started laughing like crazy. Then her eyes turns black, and she said that unexpectedly. In the end, it's she who underestimated legendary Hero. But Elizabeth's hands started extending, her wings extended, and because more scary, she told Hero to don't get too conceited. Because so far she've only used less than 30% of her power. Elizabeth powered up and goes in her demon god form. She shouted, "Impudent scoundrel, I show you what real terror is." Elizabeth fly towards Wang Kai with her full power, and Wang Kai also goes in his war robot mode to fight Elizabeth. There was huge energy blast when both of them collide with each other. 1 hour later, Leping fall asleep with waiting for his death. When his sleep break, he wakes up thinking, have he already died? But when he looks forward, he saw the same things he had in his house. He was surprised that isn't he still at home. When he stand up, it seems quiet outside too. Leping grabbed the door lock with his shaking hands. He was scared, thinking that the demon queen wouldn't be waiting for him out there like a maniac, right? Leping slowly opened the door and looked outside. There was smoke everywhere, in that he was Elizabeth in demon god mode who has destroyed Wang Kai. She cracked Wang Kai's front screen with her big nails. When Elizabeth saw Leping, she threw Wang Kai's body and turned around. Elizabeth's eyes were full of killing instincts. She said to Leping that she is truly sorry, that she completely destroyed the magical tool he was so proud of. As she was coming towards Leping, he was too scared. He told her that it's okay. Can't they sit down and talk? Elizabeth said. Sure, they can talk after she killed Leping. But Elizabeth's head started shaking. Elizabeth thought that this is unbelievable to push her to her limits. Is this the ending that was foretold for her? And at last Elizabeth lost consciousness and fall on the ground. Leping was surprised to see her falling down. He held her in his arms and asked her if she's okay. Elizabeth's demon god mode started dissipation. As her armor was despairing, her clothes started despairing. Leping was too shocked to see it. He asked her that what is she trying to do? But Elizabeth's all clothes despaired. Leping got a solid nosebleed after seeing Elizabeth's naked body. After some time at night, Elizabeth was sleeping on a bed while she was handcuffed. But she was wearing clothes now. Suddenly she wakes up. She couldn't believe that. She, the demon queen, has suffered a humiliating defeat, and instead of taking the opportunity to kill her, Hero imprisoned her. Did he do it to show his power to the world? Elizabeth gathered her abyss magic in her hand to break free, but her magic didn't work. Elizabeth thought that this handcuffs are another legendary class artifact she've never seen. Elizabeth was irritated, thinking how much power is Hero still hiding. She looks around in the room and analyzes her surroundings. She thought that these strange things are definitely not simple. It seems this Hero is much more wicked than she imagined. She underestimated him too much. Suddenly Leping enters the room. He was surprised to see Elizabeth awake. When Elizabeth saw Leping, she told him that if he want to kill her, don't expect her to beg for mercy. But Leping didn't even listen to her. He was busy thinking that the demon queen is truly frightening. But this is his only chance to survive. He must seize it. He asked her if they can talk instead. When Leping was putting the food, he saw Elizabeth struggling with handcuffs. Leping told her that he just used this handcuffs as a precaution. As she know how terrifying Elizabeth is, Elizabeth was confused. She don't understand what Leping is saying at all. Leping believed there must be a misunderstanding between them. He said he'll unlock the handcuffs for her now, and then they can talk. But what Elizabeth understood is that Leping is looking down at her, and he is saying sorry, because from the beginning, Elizabeth had a misunderstanding. She thought she was formidable enough to challenge the Hero, but she is absolutely wrong, and if she want to stay alive, then fulfill his demands. Elizabeth was angry, thinking that Hero is threatening the demon queen. Leping unlocked her handcuffs. Leping said to Elizabeth that since he've unlocked the handcuffs to prove that he really have no ill intentions, so as promised they should talk. Elizabeth turned around, thinking that the current situation is very unfavorable for her. Strong individuals know when to bend and when to stretch. She'll endure Hero for now, but he'll regret his arrogance later. While Elizabeth was having all this thought, Leping was too scared. Because he had now free her, he told Elizabeth to take a rest for now. Sure, everyone is curious why Leping didn't kill the Demon Queen when she was unconscious. So in this world of swords and magic, Leping thought that it's perfectly normal for Elizabeth, as the Demon Queen, to possess a resurrection skill. Killing chickens and fish for soup is one thing. But Leping could never kill a person, however. Resolving the conflict between the hero and the Demon Queen doesn't necessarily require killing and fighting. Leping thought that as long as he can show that he posed no threat to her and become her friend, he can continue to live happily. Leping started laughing while thinking about a master plan, but Elizabeth get more angry as she thought Leping is still mocking her. Leping asked pick up Wang Kai from outside, but he was sad that Wang Kai has become such a mess. Elizabeth asked Leping if this thing is his most powerful magic tool. Leping thought, what magic tool? It's just a little thing he made while living here out of boredom, but he was too lazy to explain it to Elizabeth, so he told her that she could say that. He told her that Wang Kai was developed by him just recently. When Elizabeth heard that she had a smile on her face, she thought that this time, it's Leping's turn to be careless. After untying the handcuffs, she secretly used Abyss infinite magic to recover quickly. And Hero, after losing the protection of his most powerful magic tool, is like losing his right arm. She thought that the balance of power has tilted towards her. She stands up on the bed with full of killing intact. She said sorry to Leping for breaking his things. Leping told her that it's okay. The memory card is still safe. He pulled out the memory card from Wang Kai's head. Elizabeth was ready to use her world-destroying magic on Leping. She thought that this moment is the best time for her to eliminate the legendary hero. But right before Elizabeth could attack, Leping opens the closets. Where was Wang Kai's body? He told Elizabeth that since the body can't be repaired, so he made a lot of preparations here. Elizabeth was too stunned to see that many Wang Kai. Leping picked one Wang Kai and put that memory card in it. New Wang Kai opened his eyes and started moving around him again. Leping told Elizabeth that it's fun to have a companion, but sometimes it's naughty. So Leping usually only activate one at home. Now Leping and Wang Kai looks like some devil to Elizabeth. Elizabeth was too scared she fall on the bed, saying that there is no way it's not possible. Suddenly Elizabeth smells something. She asked Leping, "What's this smell?" Leping told her that when he saw her faint, he made some food to warm her up. It was regular meat porridge and regular dumplings. Elizabeth said that only the weak need to eat. She have reached a transcendent state and don't need these things. Elizabeth said that, but her stomach start making sound. Elizabeth was embarrassed. Leping get happy because he thought that resolving conflicts with delicious food can surely work. Leping told Elizabeth that these are all made from vegetables and grains he grew himself. It's completely natural. He asked Elizabeth to please have a taste. Elizabeth, while hesitating, pitch one dumpling. She take a bite. She didn't say anything and just eat it. Leping was nervous looking at Elizabeth. Although he is confident in his cooking, will the Demon Queen with her status appreciate these newbie village things? Elizabeth, one by one, eat all the dumplings. Elizabeth said that with each bite, the meat juices burst like fireworks in her mouth, a natural and unadorned flavor. It also contains a high concentration of magical energy. Elizabeth was too satisfied. She didn't know before that this world actually has such a delicacy thing. It's so delicious that she, the Demon Queen, can't bear to swallow that last bite. When she swallowed it, she was shocked. Elizabeth's heart skipped for a second. A volcano of spices erupted in her mouth. Elizabeth could barely control herself. She was too embarrassed to show this side of her. She told Leping that it's so spicy. While shaking her body, Elizabeth asked Leping what did he add to the food. Leping was too scared because he added a bit of chili according to his own taste. He asked if the Demon Queen not handle spicy food. Elizabeth looks at Leping and thought that, just as expected of Hero, there were no good intentions. This evil hero has imprisoned her just to use her for research experiments. But at that moment, Leping remembered that there is this thing. He told Elizabeth to try century egg and lean pork congee. It clears heat and reduces fire. Elizabeth thought that this hero is too evil, feeding poison on one hand and providing the antidote on the other, playing with her in the palm of his hand. He thought that there's no way around it. This strange feeling is too uncomfortable. Elizabeth picked up the spawn and take a bite of the porridge. The second Elizabeth put in her mouth, her mind traveled to the heaven. That was a very peaceful feeling. Elizabeth was too comfortable. The quest for world domination, the struggle between the Demon Queen and the hero, all of these disturbances no longer concern her, letting go of everything, living carefree. But because of this that she've discovered how truly insignificant she is. Elizabeth advanced and breaking through at the same time. Now Elizabeth is 3-star Demon Queen. It was surprisingly to Elizabeth that, by consuming food, she was brought into a new realm. Under the influence of 2 extreme stimuli, her power has once again advanced. Elizabeth told Leping to don't pretend she asked him what do we want. Leping smiled little as he was sacred. He said he just want them to research how a demon queen and a hero can coexist. Elizabeth was now nervous because she thought Leping is telling her that, in this world, Elizabeth is the only one qualified to be the subject of his research as the hero. And he is asking Elizabeth to come let him help her become stronger, and then she defeat him. Leping asks her if that is okay. He'll also continue making delicious food to serve her. Elizabeth get more angry because she thought that Anai may be killed but not shamed, and she is the demon queen. How could he do that to her? It looks like to her that Leping is telling her that if she want to become stronger, he can help her. He is also looking forward to whether she can defeat him, but Elizabeth controlled herself and said never mind, forget it. Leping get nervous. He thought she is telling him to forget his proposal. He thought is she still going to kill him? Elizabeth stand up on the bed and ask Leping to listen to her. She said she can agree with his conditions, but he should know this. He is doing this not out of fear but to pursue the pinnacle of strength. Leping was confused when he heard that she would fear him. She is the demon queen. She hold the power she can do as she wish. Elizabeth laughs and told Leping to don't think that she'll lower her head and be submissive while living here. Her dignity as the demon queen must never be violated. Otherwise, even if she have to sacrifice everything, she'll destroy the hero. Leping was too scared to see her. He said he understood. He asked her to let's try to get along. Time flies quickly and 1 year has passed in the beginner's village. Now Holy Sword has been used as wood-chopping tool. The atmosphere around the house is calm, but Leping's mind is now calm. Leping don't know what should he do because things have gotten too complicated, ever since the Demon Queen. Elizabeth forcibly entered and broke the protective barrier of the newbie village. Time here has gradually synchronized with the outside world. Time synchronization isn't the issue. But what's disastrous is that without the barrier's protection, the newbie village has lost its concealment function and is completely exposed in the wilderness. And the monsters appearing nearby don't seem to be so simple. There are giant dragons, fire phoenix, and many more monsters are roaming the grounds. Leping know that he couldn't deal with any of them. He has the holy sword, but he can only use is to chop woods, but because of the Demon Queen's presence here monsters don't dare to approach. Leping thought that does this mean that once the Demon Queen leaves he will die? Suddenly Elizabeth's voice comes from inside the house asking Leping that it's lunchtime. Why isn't it ready yet? Leping get nervous when he hear that voice every time he reply that he is coming right away. So now Leping know that he must seek Elizabeth's protection if he want to survive in this world. The Demon Queen was watching the drama from the human world on the television. She watched drama all day and eat potato chips while lying on the comfortable sofa. That slim and hot Elizabeth has turned into a fatty drama addict. She even complains that she is tired of watching these recordings of Leping. She asks him that can't he get something new from that system of his. Leping comes inside the room while holding a bowl full of food. He told Elizabeth that the system has long disappeared, so it is impossible. He asked her to come on because he've prepared lunch. Elizabeth sit up and asked Leping to just give her a moment. She moved her finger in air and used a magic spell. 2 wings appeared on her back, but they were too small compared to when she was a proper demon queen. Elizabeth slowly fly with those wings of hers to travel to the kitchen. Elizabeth asked Leping that what kind of poison is in these chips he is feeding her because she feel like the more she eat the lazier she become. Elizabeth was angry thinking that Leping is using the guise of delicious food to paralyze her with these slow-acting poisons, trying to lead her to total depravity. This is too delusional. Leping told her that these chips are high in calories. Eating too many can easily accumulate fat, and people naturally become fat. When Elizabeth was surprised to hear the word fat, but when she look at her body, she really has accumulate too much fat. She tried to touch her stomach, but it was too soft and squeezy. Elizabeth flick her finger and use her deep sea magic on herself. The magic she used was negative attributes, conversion, and this magic transform Elizabeth back to slim and hot. Demon Queen. Elizabeth thought that Leping feed her all this so he can make her weak. She said sorry to him because all the fat that accumulated in her body has been converted into magic power. On the other hand, innocent Leping was amazed to see that magic can be used like this. Elizabeth laughs because another trick of Leping has foiled by her. She asks him how did he feel. Very disappointed. Leping could laughs and agree to whatever she said. He said, whatever Elizabeth say is right and ask her eat. Elizabeth's mouth watered after seeing the food placed in front of her. She said that today's lunch suits her taste perfectly, so she won't hold back. Elizabeth turned slim, but her habits are still that of a fatty. She was eating like animal. Leping asked her to wait and eat slowly. But she didn't listen to him. He told her that if it's not enough, he can make more. It doesn't matter if she eat more. Elizabeth stopped for a second and looks at Leping. She thought, what does Leping mean to say is that Elizabeth is still too weak? She should fatten up before he kill her. Elizabeth get more angry after imagine all that. Leping said for dessert, he'll go get it for her. Elizabeth thinking is Leping really treating her like a pig? In this past year she've broken through more than 10 times. She should have the ability to challenge Leping now. He was going to ask him to let's have a decisive battle. But Leping take out Elizabeth's favorite pudding lug from the refrigerator. Elizabeth's mood, swift from anger. When she see the pudding, she jumped from her sit in joy and asked Leping to give it to her. Leping thought that fortunately, this demon queen isn't that difficult to deal with. Having the right food can calm her down easily. On the other hand, miles away from the beginner's village, an old man was running away. He was not alone. A green-haired girl was also running away with him. Some ghost-like entities, who were making click-click sound, were after that old man and the girl. A ghost jumped from behind to attack. That ghost has scary nails and with it he tear the space. He used spatial tearing magic to attack both of them. When the old man saw it, he run more fast to dodge, and just when he was about to get out of the range, that ghost pull in her hand in the spatial, his strike get more strong and reach the old man immediately. But that was not a damage-dealing attack instead. It was a trap named Nail Cage to trap both the old man and the girl in it. When there is no way to run, old man pull out his sword to fight back. That green-haired girl name is Evil. Old man told Evil, who is also his daughter, to wait for him to hold them back. Then she keep going towards the town. It'll be safe there. Evil was injured at that time and couldn't fight back, but she don't want to leave her father behind and escape by herself. Old man told Evil that he promised her mother that he would protect Evil, no matter what, while both of them were talking and wasting time. All the ghosts catch up to them. The ghost in front used ghost fire and a super big purple fire appeared in the sky. Old men know that he must finish this quickly. He used the strongest move he has. He cover his sword with aura and swing it with full power towards sky. His strike was more powerful than the ghost fire, and it cut both the ghost fire and the ghost into two. When that ghost was falling from the sky, other ghosts saw it. Other ghost raised his hand on that dead ghost's direction, and that dead ghost's body turned into black fog and mix in with other ghost. When the other ghost fully absorbed the dead ghost, he grow a new head mask just like the dead ghost, and he became more powerful. Evil shouted that, no matter what, she won't leave her father. She aims at the ghost with her aura arrow, and use natural arrow magic to attack the ghost. But her arrows didn't do any damage to the ghosts because those ghosts are Dark Guild's apostles. Old man told Evil that she can't handle the Dark Guild's apostles. He said he don't know how long he can hold them back, so he asked Evil to hurry and go. Suddenly that ghost sit and put his frog-like hands on the ground. And when he released aura in the ground, it directly goes to the old man through underground. Old man jumped sideways to dodge. The ground got destroyed. Other ghost used this time to get close to the old man. Old man was in air, so he was unable to dodge a close-range attack. He used his sword to defend, but that ghost used all his power to punch him. Old man goes flying and hit a giant rock. That hit was too strong that, for a second, old man's eyes got blank. He threw up blood. Evil shouted her father's name while crying, but all this injury was not enough to take down that old man. He was still breathing and was conscious. He told Evil to don't worry about him and ask her, go quickly. The third ghost jumped from back to get absorbed in that two-face ghost. When all three of them fully mixed together they remove the black coat and transform into a dark blue giant ghost slime. Evil and the old man looks to tiny infant of that ghost because of losing too much blood. Old man in the end lost consciousness. Evil was too scared to see the giant ghost in front of her. While crying, she begged the ghost to please spare her father, and she'll go back with the ghost. But that ghost roars loudly with his ugly mouth. Now Evil realized that she is going to die. But just when that ghost raised his hand to finish them off, A more giant foot crushed that ghost to death. Just that unknown things. One foot was enough to destroy the ground around them. Rock and dust fly all around. But when Evil look in front, she get to scared. She saw that a lord mammoth was standing in front on her. It was the one who killed Thay Ghost with only his one foot. Both evil and bold man looks like ants in front of that mammoth. There was a house on the head on that mammoth. In that house, that mammoth's master, Immortal Frog, was leaving. Immortal Frog asked his big brother that the danger has been cleared. How should they deal with these two harmless humans? The one Immortal Frog called brother was leaving on the house, which was on Immortal Frog's head. The Immortal Frog's brother was Leping's mechanical pet dog Wang Kai. Wang Kai told Immortal Frog to do not harm harmless humans. He will take them back to his master to deal with. The sometimes later when Evil wakes up, she was still shocked to see that joint mammoth. But she find herself lying on the bed in an unknown room. She looks around to see where is this strange place and where is her dad. At that moment, she remember about her father's injured condition after fighting that ghost. She said that father is seriously injured. If he doesn't get treatment in time, he could. She removed that blanket and stand up. She was still wearing her armor. She immediately returns to the single door that was in that room. She opened the door and shouted for her father. But she was shocked to see that her father is all healed and is showing his muscular body. Leping praised Evil's father, saying that uncle must have spent a lot of time training to look like this. Evil's father said to Leping that as a warrior, physical fitness is fundamental. When Leping hear that Evil's father is warrior, he get too excited. He asked him if this, the warrior profession of another world, it's so amazing. When Wang Chai saw that Leping is happy, he started running in circles around Leping, but Elizabeth was irritated by Wang Kai, so she kicked Wang Kai with her foot. Wang Kai goes flying and hit the ground 3 times. Elizabeth was angry. She called Wang Kai stupid dog and asked him who told him to bring this riffraff back. The memories of defeat, being beaten and destroyed by the Demon King, resurface in Wang Kai's system, and it started shaking in fear. On the other hand, Leping completely ignored both of them. He touched Evil's father's bicep and said, "Wow, it's too sturdy." Evil's father make another pose and said that since Mr. Leping likes it, he won't hide it either. He use his 100% battle soul burning skill and tear apart all his clothes. That old man has turned into a muscle man with muscles everywhere. Leping get too excited to him like that. He make more poses to show Leping. Evil was too shocked to see her father like that. She asked him what is he doing. Evil's father was little surprised to see that Evil has finally woke up. He told Evil that he is trying to please their saviors. Then Leping told the situation to Evil. But when Leping was telling her, suddenly, Elizabeth jumped between them. She told Evil that now that Evil is awake, then both of them should get out of here. Elizabeth goes forward and warned Evil. She put pressure on Evil and told her that Elizabeth come first. Evil was too scared of Elizabeth, but Leping saw the situation and tried to calm Elizabeth. He said that it's rare to have guests, so let's go inside and talk. All of them get inside. Then Leping pours some tea for Evil and her father. He said, sorry because he don't have anything good to offer them in this rural place. He told them that this is the barley tea. He made himself, Evil, pick up the cup of tea and ask her father that, is this the miraculous potion he talked about? The one that would heal immediately after drinking? Leping laughs and said that it's too exaggerated. He just fed them some cold well water before. Elizabeth, who was sitting beside Leping, was not happy. She was thinking that by bringing these 2 weak humans back, what kind of evil experiment does Leping want to do? Is this mean that Elizabeth can't satisfy Leping? Evil's father told Evil that, although he was already unconscious at that time, he vaguely remember. At that time Leping was farming in a field when Wang Ai brought both of them to him. Then when Leping pour the drink in Evil and her father's mouth, he immediately wakes up and get all healed. He told Evil that if it weren't for Mr. Leping's help, he is afraid he would have never seen Evil again. When Evil hear all that, then she started questioning herself, that's such a precious thing, can they really drink it? Leping laughs and said that the adventurers speak too nicely. There's really no need to be polite. Evil's father thanked Leping again and take a sip that tea. Both of them were too shocked. A golden light comes out from inside their body. They felt that they are lying on a golden grassy field. They could feel the nature in there, every cell. They could feel the energy of everything. Both of them couldn't stop there, cry as they fell. How big the world is, how big this field is. Both of them advance in their realm. Evil's father, advance from 3-star Archmage to 4-star Archmage, and Evil advance from 1-star Mage to 1-star Archmage. Evil's father told Evil that their magic levels have all directly broken through and advanced. Evil said, "Yeah. Evil Mother's elf bloodline has awakened and she've grown ears." Now after witnessing the boundaries, nothing really matters to them. Leping couldn't see all this. He asked them to let him pour them another cup. Evil's father told Leping that it's enough. He thought that Mr. Leping is really godly person. They can't stand this kind of torment. Leping said all right, but he was sad. He loved to serve them drinks and snacks. But Elizabeth took them all away, and if he take them back, it might annoy the Demon Queen. While drinking orange juice, Elizabeth warned Leping that very thing else's her. Don't even think about it. Leping said sorry to them because there is nothing to serve them. But both Evil and her father were not thinking about food, as them were scared of Elizabeth. Then Leping asked Evil's father that how did they get attacked. Evil's father name is Burrs. Burrs said they, as Mr. Leping can see, it was because of the elf bloodline in Evil's body. Evil told Leping that her mother was the saintess of the elf race, and she gave birth to Evil after falling in love with her father. But the elf race forbids intermarriage with other races. Leping asks so it's the elves who are trying to catch them, but Elizabeth intervened in the conversation. She said, "It's nonsense. The intermarriage ban between races was abolished long ago after the Demon Queen unified the world." Burrs sighed and said, "It's a long story. Ever since Evil's mother was forced to return to the elf Holy Land, he took Evil and hid away." Leping asked that does this means the elves still found out about Evil's existence, so they sent people to catch Evil. Leping thought it's amazing, it's like Romeo and Juliet from another world. Burrs said that because of his wife's sacrifice and returning to the elf tribe, elves have decided to spare them. The ones chasing Evil and Burrs this time are the envoys of the Dark Guild from the Demon Realm. Demon Realm and Dark Guild. Leping looked at Elizabeth and said, "Could it be?" Elizabeth get to angry. She shouted and asked Leping that what do we mean by that. Leping didn't argue with her and immediately said sorry to her. Then Elizabeth sit down and asked Burrs to explain to her clearly. Where did the Dark Guild in the Demon Realm come from? And why are they capturing elves? Burrs told Elizabeth that the Dark Guild is doing mysterious human experiments, trying to resurrect the Demon Queen who once unified the world. Evil told them that the elves are one of their materials, so much so that even Evil who have not awakened, her bloodline have become their target. When Leping hear that the Dark Guild is trying to resurrect Elizabeth, he looks at Elizabeth, expecting some explanation. But angry Elizabeth grabbed his neck and warned Leping to don't think she don't know what Leping is thinking. Leping said he know for sure. She've been here all along. He asked her to calm down. Evil asked her father that what is Leping and Elizabeth talking about. Burrs told her to don't be nosy in others' matter. When Elizabeth calmed down, she said it seems that in just 1 year, there have been earth-shattering changes outside. She asked Burrs that who told them that the Demon Queen was already dead. Burrs asked that isn't she, the Demon Queen Elizabeth has been missing for 500 years. If she were still alive, she would have come back to rule the world long ago. Leping was too shocked to her that it has 500 years. You remember that Elizabeth has only been living here for a little over a year. Elizabeth asked Burrs that what did the rumors say, how the Demon Queen died. Evil told her that, according to the literature, the Demon Queen Elizabeth was killed by the legendary hero. Burrs told them that it is said that the battle lasted for a whole month, and finally, the legendary hero sacrificed himself to protect the hero continent, and died with the evil Demon Queen. Elizabeth get angry, how dare they talk such shit. Elizabeth was too angry and just the aura she released from her eyes were enough to make Evil and Burrs feel like they are in hell. Evil and Burrs were shaking in fear. Evil asked her father that what is this boundary again. Burrs told her that this is pure killing intent. Elizabeth looks at them angrily and told them that the rumor is false. Both Evil and Burrs were too scared that yes work comes out of their mouth without them knowing. Leping said, "That's right because he is that legendary hero." Leping was confident, saying it because that's what the system told him. Both Evil and Burrs get too shocked to hear that. Leping pointed at Elizabeth and told them that she is the Demon Queen Elizabeth. Information overload in both Evil's and Burrs's mind. Both of them vomit blood and lost consciousness. Elizabeth was every angry in Elizabeth's eyes. She felt like Leping is laughing while telling Evil and Buns to mock Elizabeth for him, because the Demon Queen has been imprisoned here. Quick laugh at her. Elizabeth slaps the table and said enough. All three of them get scared to see her angry, but Elizabeth stand up and left saying that she wouldn't entertain Leping anymore. Elizabeth was too embarrassed thinking that Leping is stinky Leping. She get it that Leping saved these people back just to humiliate her. He've gone too far this time. She will get her revenge. She snapped the door and left. When Elizabeth left then, both Evel and Burs calmed down. Scared Burs said sorry and asked Leping what is his plans for the future. What Burs want to ask is how Leping is going to deal with them. Leping was scared himself. He don't know what to do either. He told both of them to calm down. Leping was scared because after Elizabeth broke the time barrier, the time here became chaotic and out of sync, until it completely synchronized. It's been 500 years outside. At night, both Evel and Burs were lying on the bed. They were trying to sleep but couldn't because of fear. Evel whispers to her father that she didn't expect that. The truth of 500 years ago was like this. Evel thought that the Demon Queen fell in love with the legendary hero and gave up the world and chose to hide away. Like Evel's father Burs did for her mother. Burs whispers and told Evel that they have no right to compare their selves with hero and Demon Queen, since Leping told them to calm down first, so Leping must be thinking about whether to spare Evel and Burs or not. Evel asked her father that if Leping wants to kill them, why did he save them? Burs told Evel that just like how Leping casually helped them break through to the advanced stage with the sacred tea and almost strangled them. In Leping's eyes, Evel and Burs are no different from ants. Whether to kill or spare, it's all up to their mood. Suddenly Evel hears someone's footstep. It was Leping. He smiled like a devil and asked that since they are still not asleep, what are they doing this late? Evel get to scared to see Leping, but Leping turns on the light and asks them that, if they haven't slept yet, how about playing cards? Burs had a confused expression on his face, as he don't know what playing cards means. Then in the light of a candle they all sit on the floor to play cards. Leping explain all the rules of cards to them to confirm. He asked if they understand everything. Burs reply that he understand roughly. Evel was thinking that as her dad told her before, this is Leping's test for them to decide whether to kill them or not. Leping thought that if they understand 50% of what he told, then it's good. He said he'll start dealing cards then. Evel had a question to ask Leping, but she hesitated to ask. At the end, she couldn't control her desire to question and ask Leping. She asked him that, what's the name of this game? She asked it because there's a sinister aura emanating from these cards that she don't understand why. Leping was surprised by her question as he was not expecting her to ask it. That question really stumps him at the moment. He thought that landlord card is probably not easy to understand for the people of this world, so he come up with a new name and decide to call it Dragon Fight. He chose that name because it was cool, but that cool name scared the shit out of Evel and Burs. Both of them were shocked to hear that name. Elizabeth, who left before and angry, couldn't sleep, so she comes to check. She used her high-level magic concealment technique to part her body and soul. Now she was in form of soul, so others cannot see her and she can pass through anything. When she was roaming around the house, she heard that Leping is playing Dragon Fight, so she stopped to look. Leping explained them what Dragon Fight mean. He said that both of them are brave heroes who have to join forces to defeat the dragon. They can decide whether to be the hero or dragon according to the cards they draw. Burs whisper to Evel that this sure is a test for them, in both father and daughter's vision. Leping looks like villain, who warns them to think carefully before they choose. Leping pick up his cards and told them to also look at their cards. Burs whispers to Evel that there's no room for hesitation. He asks her to take her cards. Evel was scared to even pick up those mysterious cards. When she touched those cards, she felt like all her surroundings have changed into demonic hell. Burs was shocked. He thought, is this another realm? Evel was shaking. In fear, she realized that this is not a good place because just picking up the cards drained all her magic power. She couldn't even move her body. She looked at her dad and said, sorry, because she can't help him more. Burs told her that it's okay and asked her to leave the rest to her dad. On one side, it was life and death situation, and on the other side, for Leping, it was just like playing normal cards. He asked Burs if Burs want to be a dragon. Looking at his cards, Leping thought that, although he don't have many big cards, it's still a very good set. He also has big and small kings, so it's not bad, it's worth a shot. Burs and Evel reply that they don't want to be a dragon. Both of them have good cards, but they don't know it. Leping thought that if he get another 4 and 2, he'll have a winning hand. He again asked them if they are sure they don't want to be dragon. What Leping means by being dragon is if they want to change cards. but both Evil and Burs deny because they don't understand it. Leping said he won't be polite then, and he pick up a card, but when he turns the card, they are not that good, which could be seen by Leping's expression. Both Evil and Burs started shaking, in fear, thinking Leping is dissatisfied with their performance. Leping said he'll play first, and he played an 8. It was now Burs' turn. Burs thought, as long as they pass this test, Leping will spare them so they can't give up now. But when he pick up a card, he suddenly feel pain in his heart. Every time they play a card, it's at the cost of their life force, but Burs endured it and serves. Burs was shaking in pain. When Evil saw him like that, she gets scared. But Burs told her that he is fine, so leave everything to him. Scared Evil passed this round, and then it was Leping's turn. He looks at his cards and thought that besides the royal flush, a straight from 7 to Q, should he break the pair or not. If he do, they'll play a 2, and he'll be at a disadvantage. Leping was thinking too much and was getting too nervous. Leping said forget it, he also pass. Burs was too shocked to hear that he just pick up a card and get was sucked dry of his life force, and now he have to do it again. He asked Leping if he really not want it. Leping smiled and said no. Now all the pressure was on Burs. He thought Leping is deliberately making him continue to play cards, and it will continue to consuming his life force. In this situation, he have to get rid of all his cards as soon as possible. Burs directly show his 8 cards, 2 queen, 3 6 and 3 7. He said that according to the rules, this combination of cards should be called Flying Dragon. But when he put those cards, his heart skipped for a second. This move of his consumed large amount of his life force, but he endured. The price for this move was his one leg. Now he knows that the bigger the cards he play, the bigger the price will be. But what he didn't expect was that a huge flying dragon made of spiritual energy could come out from the cards. Both Evil and Burs were shocked to see it. Dragon start to prepare for his attack on Leping. Dragon collect spiritual energy in his mouth and shoot at Leping like a laser beam. Elizabeth was watching everything from sidelines. Burs got really scared, because it turns out that playing a combination of cards leads to a losing situation. Burs say he is doomed. He just offended the legendary hero. He will be dead this time. But Leping is fine. He don't get any scratch from Dragon's attack. Leping compliments Burs that Burs play really good. Burs don't believe his eyes. After Dragon's attack, Leping is totally fine. Leping smile and say he don't want it. Burs can continue. Burs' hands are shaking. He said he understand. He play his card A3. Evil said she pass. Then this time it's Leping's turn. He play his card. Both Burs and Evil say that they can't beat it. Leping smile and start to prepare a powerful move. Suddenly they were surrounded by a powerful blue light. Burs was shocked to see that. A sky-destroying wave come out behind from Leping. Wave attack on Burs and Evil. Burs said to his daughter Evil to hang in there. But Evil is worried about his dad. That sky-destroying wave swallow both of them. After surviving Leping attack, Burs and Evil say that they can't play anymore. But Leping start to prepare his next move and said that next is 3 of a kind with a pair. Horse carriage come out from air with soldier and prepared to attack on Burs and Evil. Burs got really scared and said he can't beat him. But Evil said she wants to try. She prepared her cards. But Burs is against the decision. He told her that if she want to play, she have to pay the price with her life force. Evil don't listen and said she can't hide behind him. She also want to protect her father. After saying that she also prepare the same move as Leping. Then 2 horse carriage show up with soldier and start to fight each other. Both of the carriages collide with each other. There was a huge blast of spiritual energy, and Leping's horse carriage come out unscratched. Burs was shocked. He looks at Evil's and asks her if she is okay. Evil reply that she is fine. Leping told Burs that it's inappropriate. Burs must protect his teammates, even if he break up his own cards. And the most important thing is determination. Burs looks at his fingers, which have been shucked dry of life force. He thought, what is determination? Leping pick up his card and laughs because it's too late for Burs and Evil. Burs and Evil were scared to see Leping smile like that. Elizabeth was also scared because it's not good. Such an ominous premonition is really bad. Leping picked 2 cards and slam on the ground. His 2 cards were clown. Suddenly a crack appeared in the space. Evil and Burs were shocked to see it. From that crack, a hand which looked like Clown's hand comes out. Next, Clown himself comes out of the crack and smile at scared Evil and Burs. Elizabeth was surprised to see that Clown. She want to ask Leping what this summoned is. That Clown is Supreme King. Level 3 Star Demon God. Both Evil and Burrs were shaking in fear when that clown looks at them and smile. Clown extended his hand towards them. But clown stop before touching them and make a beats love sign. He is a clown. So he was just scaring Evil and Burrs. But that clown felt Elizabeth's presence there. He looks at Elizabeth and laughs. He asks her what is she peeking at. He summons a knife in his hand. And while licking that knife he warned Elizabeth to be careful. He will kill her. Elizabeth was angry. She asked Clown that do he know who is he looking down on. Elizabeth used her power to stop Clown. Elizabeth was scared, thinking that during this period of time, she put down her dignity and accepted feeding. She finally reached the 3-star demon god level. But Leping could summon 3-star demon god casually. Evil was all exhausted and scared. Burrs said sorry to Evil because there's nothing he can do. She told her father that how can she blame himself? It's all her fault for irritating Leping. Suddenly Burrs started vomiting blood. His life force is losing like crazy. His body don't have enough energy to let him sit properly. Burrs put down the cards and get himself together. Leping was surprised to see him. He asked Burrs if he is okay. It looked like to Leping that Burrs' injury hasn't healed yet, so he is vomiting blood. But something else attracted Leping. He looks at Burrs' cards. Leping thought that with Burrs' cards, he could have won a long time ago. It turned out that Burrs was just letting Leping play with him. Leping was ignorant and thought that he was very powerful. In fact, Leping was disturbing other people's rest. Leping mix up all the cards, and just as he do that 3-star demon god disappear with it. Leping collected all the cards and told Burrs that he had lots of fun. He asked Burrs to now go to bed early. Leping left in disappointment. Burrs and Evil finally relaxed. Burrs said that the legendary brave man is really unpredictable. Evil couldn't believe that they are still alive. Elizabeth was very angry. She said, "It's outrageous. Playing cards with these two humans is a lie." Leping just took the opportunity to beat up Elizabeth. Then the next day, Burrs and Evil were ready to leave. When they were standing in front of the Leping's house to say bye, Leping asked Burrs if he really not want to stay for 2 more days. The fruits Leping planted are about to be harvested. Burrs greets Leping and told him that they can't disturb Elizabeth and Leping anymore. Leping was so kind that they, daughter and father, will never forget him. Leping get nervous to see a big man greets him like that. He said, "It's okay," and told Burrs to don't say it too seriously. Burrs told Leping to don't worry. They won't talk nonsense after they go out. Evil thanked Leping because Leping give them a precious gift. Leping told her that it's not a bug deal, it's just ordinary barley tea, so don't dislike it. Leping suddenly grabbed Burrs' hand. He told Burrs that he have this as a souvenir for Burrs. What Leping give him was those cards from previous night. Burrs was surprised to get those cards. Leping told Burrs to take it because his poker skills are so bad that he is not suitable at all. Leping was crying while saying that Elizabeth also comes there. Burrs was too shocked and scared to see her. She moved her mouth and without saying anything she told both Evil and Burrs to hurry up and get the hell out of this place. When Elizabeth said that both of them runs away as fast as they can, Leping was not even able to say goodbye to them. He was confused that why are they running away too fast? When they left, Elizabeth goes back in house. She said now everything is back to normal. She asked Leping to go cook for her. On the other hand, Burrs runs too fast with Evil. Evil was about to vomit. She asked her father to please stop. Then Burrs stopped. He was all exhausted and scared. He was scared because first there was the game test of the legendary brave, and then there was the threat of the Demon King. Last night when Leping left them, Elizabeth comes to them. Elizabeth strike at them with her bare hands, but Evil and Burrs felt like their heads have been cut off. Both of them grabbed their neck to check if was that a dream. What Elizabeth did don't kill them, but left some kind of ancient text on their neck. Elizabeth ordered them to leave here immediately tomorrow, and not to reveal any news about her and the legendary brave anywhere. Scared Burrs and Evil could only nod yes. Elizabeth looks at them angrily and told them that if they have any idea that goes against her will, the curse mark on their neck will make them fall to the ground immediately. Burrs said to Evil that the truth of history is that the Demon Queen, who ruled the world, and Leping the legendary hero, were tired of the strife in the world and didn't want to be disturbed anymore. While walking, Evil looks around and told her dad that this place looks a bit familiar. Burrs looks around and in shock asks Evil that, have he run this far? Wongsai was looking at the from far. He sent Evil and Burrs back here so they won't bother his master and that fierce woman Elizabeth anymore. It was not Burrs who run that fast. In actual situation, Wongsai took them that fast, using his rocket without their knowing. This was the same place where Wang Kai saved Burrs and Evil before. The bodies of the Dark Guild apostles was still there. Burrs told Evil that there should be various high-level monsters appearing nearby, so they should better leave as soon as possible. Suddenly Wang Kai detects that something is approaching, but Wang Kai thought, who cares? Last time he get beaten up by that fierce woman, he is not going to do it again. He goes inside a teleportation portal and disappear. Suddenly in front of Evil and Burrs, something appeared. One of them were flying in air and others were standing of the ground. The one who was flying in air make Jin Jin sound and looks too. Fears. Others who were with him look same as those dark apostle. Burrs was shocked to see, because that's the great apostle. Evil was scared to hear the great apostle name. That monster which is flying in air is Dark Guild's great apostle. Level 2 star great demon spirit. Others are Dark Guild's apostle. Level 2 star to 4 star devil. Magic strength. Level reference start with magician, then great magician, demon spirit, great demon spirit, demon sect level, demon lord level, demon king level, demon god level. Magic strength level can be used as one of the reference standards for strength. Burr's profession is hero. Level 3 star great magician. Evil thought that the difference in strength is too big, so she asked her father to just let her leave with apostle. She asked her dad to get out of here. Evil herself is archer, level 1, star great magician. Burrs said yes. The difference in strength is indeed huge, but after seeing the realm of the legendary hero and the demon queen, these apostles are nothing. Burrs remember Leping telling him that the most important thing in playing cards is determination. Burrs take out the cards Leping give him and shouted that he was also a brave man called Iron Gumbos. The energy that come out form those cards were too powerful that even the great apostle feels pressured. Burrs told Evil that, ever since her mom returned to the elf tribe, he has taken Evil alone and become timid. But he was wrong. Running away won't solve the problem. If they can get through this time, he will take Evil to the elf tribe and bring her mother back for a family reunion. Just like his father, and he pursued Evil's mother alone. 4 cards of 4 come out of those card and card summon magic was used. And with the explosion of spiritual energy, the arrow god Eves. Arrow god looks just like Evil's mom. Burrs asked arrow god to play the cards. Spiritual energy that was coming out of arrow god turned into a bow and arrow. Arrow god aims and shoot at thy's apostle. Arrow goes while destroying the ground and hit a apostle on the face. Then the second and then third after killing all the devil level apostle. That arrow goes towards great apostle, but that apostle grabbed the arrow with one hand. He thought he could handle the magic arrows, but he immediately realized the power. Now he used both of his hand to stop the arrow, but that arrow killed that great apostle by destroying its head. Then all the cards returns in their place, and the arrow god also return into nature. Burrs fall on the ground. After exhausting himself, he said, it seems he need to change his job. Burrs was thinking that fortunately, in the end, he finally understood the tips Leping gave him. Determination is the real key element to bring out the strength of the cards. Since then, a new profession. Card master has been born in the brave continent. Burrs and Evil were still shocked to see the destruction power of those cards. A week later, Lin Ping was eating watermelon in his garden. Lin said the magical world is so amazing, and my hybrid fruit breeding method has been very successful. But without anyone to share it, the joy of the harvest always feels like it's missing something. In this world, there are various races including demons, warriors, and elves. Lin said, I originally thought that I was satisfied with peaceful farming. However, when I had everything and came into contact with the outside world, my heart began to grow restless, and I wanted to explore it. People are like this. They get one thing and want two. But Lin felt so weak that he decided to forget about it. Suddenly, a smoke emerged out of nowhere. It was Elizabeth. While drinking orange juice, she asked, What's on your mind, Lin? Lin replied, I wanted to go out and see something, but forget it because I'm too weak. Elizabeth smiled and said, So you're finally eager to leave this place? She asked Lin to come with her for a trip. Elizabeth thought that the outside world was incomparable to Lin, but it looked like to Elizabeth that Lin's attitude was too arrogant. Lin got really excited and asked Elizabeth if it's really okay with her. Lin thought it's a different story. If I have the protection of the Demon Queen. Elizabeth responded with an attitude, Stop talking nonsense, change your clothes. After changing their clothes, Elizabeth complimented Lin on his cooking and sewing skills, saying that they were very impressive. Lin replied, These are my specialties. The robot dog also wanted to go with them. Elizabeth twisted his finger, and a magical door appeared in front of them. Elizabeth explained that they would use this transfer door to reach the nearest town. Lin was really surprised by Elizabeth's skills. As Elizabeth walked toward the gate, Lin asked him a few questions. Lin Ping said that after they go out, Elizabeth shouldn't leave him alone no matter what. He also emphasized that Elizabeth had to keep her emotions stable and act low-key. Lin just requested to her. But it looks to Elizabeth that Lin is giving her a warning. Without Lin's permission, Elizabeth couldn't leave and she can't use magic recklessly, as it would ruin the fun of experiencing ordinary people. Elizabeth was really angry with Lin, but she managed to control her anger and told Lin that she understood. Lin asked Elizabeth that, after seeing the changes outside, will she come back with him? Lin was concerned that without the protection barrier of the novice village, he would become the food of the demon beasts in minutes. Elizabeth replied, "Of course." She thought that until I've officially defeated you, the evil hero, the outside world means nothing to me. Lin was really happy, but Elizabeth added that he had to agree to one request from her. Lin felt nervous and didn't know what request Elizabeth had in mind. Elizabeth came close to Lin and said, "When we return, I want you to make me a super deluxe assorted fruit pudding." Lin was shocked and thought, "Just pudding?" Elizabeth asked if there was a problem. Lin assured Elizabeth that he didn't have any problem with making pudding for her when they returned. He said, "Let's go." The robot dog was left behind and felt really sad. After traveling through the portal gate, Lin Ping was pleasantly surprised to see a beautiful city after so long. The city is named Boaster Town, where humans and monsters coexist without any problems. After seeing this, Lin Ping exclaimed, "This place is amazing. It's like stepping into another world." Elizabeth also observed the city after a long time. Lin asked Elizabeth to check out an equipment shop. He noticed they were selling ingredients, but he wondered, "Isn't this just regular pork?" Lin Ping was genuinely excited about visiting the outside world after a long time. Elizabeth remarked, 500 years have passed, and the changes in the outside world don't seem that significant. Lin Ping agreed, adding, "It doesn't seem as chaotic as Uncle Bess said." Elizabeth smiled and explained, "That's because I established a strong foundation during my rule. In the original world, various forces were in conflict, and the situation was chaotic. Elizabeth used her absolute strength to suppress them all and establish a set of rules where everyone is equal. So, the one who really saved the world was Elizabeth, not Lin, the so-called legendary hero." Elizabeth was really angry because Lin escaped without hearing her words. She said, "Lin is nonsense. He didn't even acknowledge my past achievements." Lin visited a small stall where a little girl was selling cute bunny dolls. After closely examining the bunny dolls, Lin commented, "So delicate, the stitching details are very well done." He asked the little girl if she made them, and the little girl replied that she was the one who made these dolls. She asked Lin if he liked them, she could offer them to him at a lower price. Suddenly a voice came out from nowhere and exclaimed, "Who gave you permission to set up a stall here? He's Demon Pig." Demon Pig kicked over the little girl's stall and seized her hand, proclaiming, "Her church owes their gang protection money and hasn't paid it yet. How dare she set up a stall in their place?" Annie's younger siblings were scared and pleaded with Demon Pig to spare their sister. Demon Pig lifted the little girl into the air. She defiantly retorted, "You never protected us. Why should we pay you protection money?" Demon Pig laughed and responded, "You're an idiot. Since last month, this street has fallen under the territory of our beast gang. If you want to survive here, you must provide monthly tributes." However, the little girl remained unconvinced and boldly declared, "That's not true. The church belongs to the nun. When the nun comes back, you'll be in trouble." Demon Pig scoffed, saying, "You're clueless. You don't understand the situation at all, do you? Fine. I'll drive you orphans away today and tear down that broken church." Lin Ping watched everything unfold from the sidelines, growing increasingly angry. He implored Demon Pig to stop. Demon Pig, with cold eyes, retorted, "What the hell do you want to do?" Lin was really scared, not knowing what to say. Elizabeth stood by, pondering. Does Lin Ping want to toy with these ordinary people again? Lin then asked Elizabeth for help in this situation, but Elizabeth turned her head away and told Lin that she didn't want to help. Lin should solve his own problem. Demon Pig grew increasingly angry with Lin Ping and asked about his intentions. Lin Ping was genuinely scared, feeling helpless, as Elizabeth offered no assistance. Suddenly, he had a great idea and shouted, "Everyone, this pig-headed man is bullying a little girl. Come and condemn him." However, everyone ignored Lin Ping and did not want to get involved in the matter. Demon Pig laughed and remarked, "You don't really think anyone will come out to help you, do you? Everyone on this street knows our beast gang." Demon Pig looked at Lin and remarked, "Look at your clothes. You're a foreigner from the south, right? The girl next to you isn't bad," Lin suggested. "Let's talk things over. I have some local specialties in my backpack. I can share them with all of you." However, Demon Pig declined and ordered his men to beat up Lin and take the woman back to their gang to lock her up. Elizabeth became really angry and asked Demon Pig, "Do you really think anyone is qualified to imprison me? You've really stepped on the tiger's tail." Suddenly the weather changed and lightning appeared in the sky, frightening everyone. They all gazed at the sky in confusion, and Demon Pig's whole body shook. He asked, "Why did the weather suddenly change like that?" As everyone continued to watch the sky, Lin urged Elizabeth not to take any drastic action, emphasizing that it might destroy the whole town. He asked Elizabeth to calm down and explained that they should just scare them. She wouldn't actually fight ordinary people like this, would she? Elizabeth assured Lin that she would spare them this time because of Lin's request. The little girl noticed Elizabeth's powerful magic and thought, "That sister's magic is so powerful." The sky returned to normal, and the rain began. Demon Pig remained bewildered by what had just occurred. Demon Pig's body is shaking with fear. He questions Elizabeth and Lin about their reasons for supporting the church orphans. He's perplexed by a sudden sense of nervousness when facing them. Lin, realizing negotiations might not work, proposes a deal to Demon Pig. He suggests paying for protection, asking how much money Demon Pig wants. Demon Pig, eager for an opportunity, nervously quotes 10 gold coins for 2 months. Elizabeth, also hearing their conversation from the sidelines, laughs and says, "A mere 10 gold coins, making a big fuss. Utterly foolish." Lin gets really surprised. He comes close to Elizabeth and asks, "By the way, Elizabeth, you must have a lot of gold coins, right?" Elizabeth gets really happy after Lin praises him. He says she has so many treasures that she can't count them all. After hearing this, Lin gets really surprised. He said, "Elizabeth, how about lending me some? I'll sell the vegetables from my home and pay you back later." However, Elizabeth is not happy with Lin Ping's idea. She doesn't want him to sell his precious vegetables for just mere 10 gold coins. She says Lin Ping is an idiot, asking to use his food to exchange for those useless things. That won't do. Besides, she didn't bring any gold coins when she came to find Lin. After hearing that, Lin hits his head on the ground, getting really surprised. He doesn't know what's going to happen to him. Demon Pig asks Lin and Elizabeth if they're going to pay the money or not. Lin is really nervous. He scratches his head with his hand and says he doesn't have any gold coins. He asks if he can use the local products in his bag to make up for it. Demon Pig gets really angry. He asks Lin and Elizabeth that if they are playing with him, he won't listen to their nonsense anymore. He orders his men to kill Lin Ping and capture Elizabeth. Suddenly, a pouch filled with gold coins comes out of nowhere and hits Demon Pig in the face. Demon Pig is really angry. He asks who threw this bag on my face and threatens to kill them. However, he notices something shiny in the pouch. After closely looking at the pouch, he sees it's filled with gold coins and gets really surprised. Then we see a man. His half body is human and the other half is a horse. He asks Demon Pig to stop harassing his friend and leave as soon as he gets the money. His name is Hawthorne Therius. After seeing him, Demon Pig says it turns out he's from the Sword Saint Guild, Thunder Sea Buckthorn. After realizing that he is a really powerful and famous adventurer, Demon Pig says he will give him some face. After getting the money, Demon Pig says to his men to, "Let's go." But before he goes, he gives a warning to the little girl that she won't be this lucky next month. After Demon Pig leaves, Lin Ping helps the little girl. The little girl thanks Lin Ping for helping her in this situation when no one else wanted to. Lin Ping is really happy. After seeing that she is okay, Lin Ping also thanks the adventurer for helping them and offers some fruits. With a humble smile, Thunder said, "You don't need to worry, it's a trivial matter." He turns to Elizabeth and says, "If you're willing, I'd like you to partner with me on something." The little girl adjusts his glasses and asks, "What do you mean, partner? What can we help you with?" He says with a suspicious smile. Let's go somewhere else to talk. If this works out, I think it can also solve your financial problems. Elizabeth folds his hands and says that she is not interested, asking Lin to go. Lin begs Elizabeth not to leave, emphasizing that he just helped them out. Let's at least see what they have to say. Hey, little girl, younger siblings, asks her sister Annie. Are you going out? They are worried about their sister because if she gets in trouble again. Little girl Annie assures them that they don't have to worry, she will be safe. She asks them to go back to the church first, she'll be back soon. When they are about to enter the pub, Horseman said, Once you enter the tavern, stay close to him. You don't know what will happen. When they enter the pub, everyone stares at Elizabeth and Lin Ping. One of the men asks Elizabeth, Hey babe, the men around you look like trash. Want to come over here instead? Lin and little girl know that if they do this, Elizabeth will kill everyone here. After hearing this, Elizabeth's eyes are glowing red. She is really angry and releases his killing intent, asking that man to say that again. After seeing Elizabeth's killing intent, the man who commented on Elizabeth gets really scared. Their whole bodies are shaking with fear. Elizabeth turns her head to Lin and says that it's all his fault for insisting on coming to this lousy place and wasting her time. Elizabeth is really angry at Lin. Lin is nervous and said to Elizabeth that they're already here, so why don't they go in? Horseman asks them to go into the private room. There won't be any outsiders to bother them. Horseman opens the door and said, I am back. Then we see a bunch of cute girls surrounding the Horseman. They say, Master, you're finally back. We were so worried about you. We wanted to go out and look for you. Please take us with you next time. Horseman turns his head to Lin and says that he forgot to mention he has a few wives here too. After seeing this, Lin gets really surprised. He doesn't have any words to say. He asks him, You have 4 wives. Horseman starts pouring tea for everyone and introduced his wives to them. First of all, this one next to me is Gusha. Her profession is a shield warrior. Then there's the assassin Lolo, and there's Glee, a mage. And lastly, there's Galia. She's an amazing elven archer. After seeing someone from the elf race, he says he met a girl with elf bloodline a while ago. Elizabeth asks Horseman to stop with the small talk. It's a waste of time. They need to leave. One of the girls says to Horseman about Elizabeth, What's the deal with this woman? Her attitude is really annoying. Elizabeth is really angry. She says this is how this queen is. Do you have any opinions? The cat girl said it's really funny she even calls herself a queen. She asks her master if this woman's brain is okay. The elf girl looks at Elizabeth and said, After looking at the shape of her ears, she's probably a lowly half-breed with a bit of elven blood. What's she doing in front of me? After hearing this, Elizabeth gets really angry. He said to the elf girl that, If she insists on bringing destruction upon herself, then don't blame this queen. If he gets killed, after hearing this, Lin Ping knows that if he doesn't claim Elizabeth, there will be a disaster. Lin gets the pudding from his bag and gives it to Elizabeth. When Elizabeth saw the pudding in Lin's hands, his anger is gone, and he gets really happy. After seeing Elizabeth's happy face, Lin feels relieved and said, Luckily I was prepared. After Elizabeth gets claimed, Lin Ping starts his conversation with the horseman. He said, Actually, we come from a very distant and nameless tribe to travel here. Elizabeth is the princess of that tribe, and I am her servant, Lin Ping. After hearing Lin Ping's words, the cat girl says, No wonder her behavior and manners are so strange. She is a tribal princess who has never seen the world. Another girl also comments, Her name is Elizabeth, right? She's from that uncivilized tribe that worships the demon queen in the demon realm, huh? That's why her behavior is rude and she is uncivilized. Lin puts his finger on his lips and asks for silence. He also explains that it's Elizabeth's first time out, and she's still adapting to the cultural differences. Lin Ping thinks this explanation should make sense, hoping they won't ask any more questions about Elizabeth. The horseman claims everyone and asks them to get back to business. He expresses his desire to invite Elizabeth and Lin to join his team in exploring a dungeon for treasure. However, the horseman is uncertain about the terrifying demonic power emanating from Elizabeth earlier, wondering if she might be from the demon race. Lin then asks the horseman about the treasure dungeon, seeking a more detailed explanation. He also turns to the little girl Annie, asking if she knows what a treasure dungeon is. Annie answers Lin's question and explains that treasure dungeons are said to be magical spaces set up by ancient powerful beings to hide valuable things. These dungeons are usually well hidden and very dangerous places. After hearing Annie's explanation, Lin gets an idea of what the treasure dungeons look like. The horseman mentions that he also spent a lot of effort to get news of this treasure dungeon. However, the condition to open the barrier is that the number of people has to reach 8. If there aren't enough people, they can't enter the dungeon. Lin said, "Oh, that's why you were looking for us to make up the numbers." Little girl Annie starts counting to see how many people they are. After she finishes, she starts crying because she is the 8th member of this party. She asks the horseman with a crying face if she cannot go with them. Lou is really confused after seeing Annie. He asks her, "What's wrong? Treasure dungeons seem to be precious. Shouldn't he be happy to go?" Elizabeth doesn't pay any attention to them. She is eating her pudding without any worry. Little girl Annie turns her head to Lin's side and says, "Brother Lin, you don't know. Treasure dungeons are usually very difficult, and she is just a mere 4-star magician. If she goes, she will probably die." Liz scratches his head and tells Annie that he doesn't know much about magic levels in this world. The horseman reassures Lin, saying they just needs to help him meet the number of people condition. The battle inside will be left to them. The treasure he'll get in the end will not be less than theirs, estimating at least a few tens of thousands of gold coins. One of the horseman's wives mentions that their master single-handedly repelled several dark apostles who wanted to take Gilead a few days ago, demonstrating his strength. Little girl Annie gets really happy hearing this, realizing they can get tens of thousands of gold coins from the dungeon. With that amount of money, they can solve the church's financial problems without any issues. Lin asks Elizabeth to help them make up the numbers to solve their financial problems. Elizabeth, while eating her pudding, doesn't pay attention to Lin's words and says, "Fine. I don't have any problem. Please don't bother the queen from enjoying the delicious pudding." After convincing them, the horseman asks one of his wives to get the crystal ball. She takes the crystal ball from his bag and places it on the table. Lin is really surprised after seeing this crystal ball, not knowing its purpose. The horseman explains that he will show Leping how to use it. Placing his hand on the crystal ball, a bright light comes out, and he says it's Glee's magic measurements crystal ball. Putting their hand on it will measure their magic level. He takes his hand off the crystal ball, and his magic level shows on the crystal ball, registering at 8,769. After seeing this, Lin and little girl Annie are surprised. Lin asks if this is Glee's magic measurements crystal ball, and they just need to put their hand on it to measure their magic level. It turns out to be a crystal ball that visualizes magic levels into numbers, and 8,769 should be at the demon spirit level. The horseman also reveals that his magic level is at 4-star demon spirit, and his wives are all 4 or 5-star grand mages. Since they are going to team up, they should know each other well and cooperate better. After hearing the horseman's words, little girl Annie places her hand on the crystal ball, and it shows Annie's magic level, which is 300. One of the horseman's wives remarks that she had more than Annie's value when she first changed her job. Annie is really disappointed, hearing cruel words from the horseman's wife, and starts crying. She apologizes to the horseman's wife, saying that her magic level just won't go up, she's just an average girl. On the other hand, Lin gets really excited after seeing the magic crystal demo. He says, "Let me try it too," knowing that he hasn't learned magic in these years, but as the legendary hero, his potential shouldn't be low either. With full excitement, Leping places his hand on the magic crystal. However, there is no immediate reaction from the crystal ball. Suddenly, a number shows on the crystal ball, indicating that Lin's magic level is 0. After seeing that, the horseman gets really confused. He doesn't know what happened. He has never seen something like that before. He says that even a pure martial arts user wouldn't have a magic level of 0. Lin places his hand on his forehead and explains that someone like him, who has been farming all his life, wouldn't have magic. He sits down on his chair and whispers that he's doomed to have no magic in this life because he never learned more about magic and swordsmanship. He has just been doing farming work all the time. The cat girl is really disappointed after seeing Lin's magic level. She asks him what he can do, stating that he seems to be of no help at all, just a dead weight to the team. After hearing these harsh words, Lin responds that he is good at something, farming. He mentions that he recently harvested some fruit they can try. The horsemen's wives express their disappointment, making fun of Lin. One of the girls comments that he's a typical bumpkin from a remote area and suggests keeping the fruit for themselves. They don't think they need him. The cat girl wonders if Lin is really just an ordinary servant because he doesn't look like one. The horseman calms everyone down and said, "Princess Elizabeth, you should also try it. Everyone wants to know what your magic level is. However, Elizabeth doesn't listen to the horseman's words. Lynn convinces Elizabeth to cooperate with them. Upon hearing this, Elizabeth gets annoyed and says they want the queen to accompany them to play with these ignorant mortals. She places her hand on the crystal ball, and suddenly, a bright light comes out of the crystal ball, becoming so intense that no one can see what's happening. Everyone closes their eyes due to the intense light. Lynn is really scared. He thought if Elizabeth's identity as the Demon Queen is exposed, it will definitely cause a great uproar. He asked Elizabeth to control her magic level so they will not reveal Elizabeth's true identity. Elizabeth replies that she knows what she's doing. She will not reveal her true power. Elizabeth thought it's rare to come out, so she'll play with Lynn. She controls her power, and everyone is really surprised at what's happening. After some time, the crystal ball starts showing Elizabeth's magic level. Her level is 8,000. After seeing this, little girl Annie says to everyone that big sis, Elizabeth's level is just like Horse Brothers. It's a demon spirit level of strength. After seeing Elizabeth's magic level, the horsemen's wives are really surprised. They don't understand how this pumpkin girl's level is similar to their husband's. One of the girls says, "No way. Is this woman also a 4-star demon spirit?" Lynn is relieved after seeing that Elizabeth has control over her magic power level. On the other hand, the horseman says that Elizabeth is truly amazing, worthy of being the princess of the kingdom. With her joining, their chances of getting the treasure will greatly increase. Little girl Annie asks the horseman how they can go to that treasure dungeon. Lynn also thinks that this is his second time going out and he encountered such a good thing. He can learn from them. The horseman asks one of his wives to tell them how they will go to the treasure dungeon. His wife says okay and retrieves a scroll from her bag. She throws the scroll in the air and it starts glowing. This is a teleportation scroll. With this, they can teleport directly to the treasure dungeon. After using the teleportation scroll, they teleport into the dungeon. After seeing this, Lynn is really surprised. He says that he is dizzy from the teleportation. Little girl Annie gets scared after seeing an unknown aura from the dungeon. But Elizabeth does not give a care about the dungeon. She's already faced more dangerous things than this dungeon. The horsemen come everyone and said, "Let's not delay, let's go into the treasure dungeon." After seeing this, Elizabeth says that she doesn't want to go and asks Lynn to "let's go home." Upon hearing these words from Elizabeth, the horseman and his wives are really surprised. One of the girls asks Elizabeth, what is she playing at? She came here and changed her mind at the last minute. Is she messing with them? Another two also ask if does she know how many crystals and magic power it takes to make that teleportation scroll. If she doesn't go in, don't think about leaving here either. After hearing this, Elizabeth gets angry and asks them if they have the power. Why don't they try to stop her? Lynn comes forward and asks everyone to don't be impulsive and listen to him for a moment. Lynn has an idea. And in the next moment, he starts begging Elizabeth saying that since she came here, so just take in Lynn to see it. Annie asks Elizabeth if she also notice, inside the cave, there is a magic power that is very similar to Elizabeth. After hearing Annie's words, Lynn thought, a magic power that is very similar to Elizabeth's? What does she mean? He doesn't get what Annie is actually saying. The horseman comes forward, pushes Leping, and asks Elizabeth that she has to trust him. No matter what danger she encounters inside, he will protect her. He said, "Please go in with me, Princess Elizabeth." Elizabeth doesn't care about him. She asks Lynn to follow her, mentioning that she'll play with him since he rarely comes out. Lynn starts following Elizabeth without saying a word. After seeing this, the horseman grits his teeth in frustration. They start entering the dungeon one by one. Annie is really surprised after entering the dungeon for the first time. Once inside, Lynn notices the dungeon barrier closing. He asks if they can't go back the way they came. Elizabeth explains that in this special magic space, it's impossible to leave by transfer magic unless they are stronger than the person who set up the barrier. Unless they find the target location and meet the requirements of the barrier setter, none of them can leave. After some time, they reach the main entrance of the dungeon. One of the girls says that as long as they have the master horseman with them, they will definitely get that thing. Another girl whispers, questioning what they will do if they know about that thing. Annie overhears their conversation and asks Sister Gelia what they mean by that thing. Elf girl Gelia ignores Annie's question and mentions that it's gold coins and treasure. She reassures Annie that they won't be left out. On the other hand, Leping asks about the forks in front of them and wonders where they should go. With Elizabeth backing them up, Leping thinks it's no problem. The adventure officially begins. The cat girl asks the horsemen which way they should go, and if they need to split up. The horseman says they don't have to split up for the time being and asks one of the girls to use that move. The pink-haired girl agrees, and uses her magic wand to find the right route to the treasure. She tells Elizabeth that she'll find the shortest route to the treasure in no time. Elizabeth smiles and remarks that she is just ignorant and doesn't know how big the world is. After some time, the pink-haired girl shows that there are many treasure boxes. But she also reveals that there are monsters in this dungeon, and all the monsters are at the boss level. After finding that much, her mana drains out, and she can't explore more. After some time, the horseman asks the pink-haired girl about the situation in the maze and if she explored it till the end. The pink-haired girl replies that this maze seems to have no end. She has extended her magic to the limit and has not found any trace of the edge. After hearing this, other two girls are really surprised. They say, "No way. Glee's magic extension concentrated distance is 3 kilometers long. They suggest using spirit divination, but it has an accuracy rate of only 34%. However, they're not 100% sure. The cat girl suggests splitting up and acting in groups, with the ability to use the clone technique for support. Lin turns his head to Elizabeth and asks, "Elizabeth, do you actually know how to go, right?" Elizabeth smiles and says, "Of course, this maze is just an illusion. These ignorant youngsters will never get out if they want to explore the end." Then Lin asks her, why doesn't she lend a hand? They can also repay them a favor as soon as possible. Elizabeth nods her head and says no. She tells Lin that she has changed her mind now. She just wants to watch them perish with him. After some time, we see many tunnels, and one of them is the right tunnel. If they find the right direction, they can reach the treasure without any problems. Little girl Annie suggests that by going through the third cave, they should be able to reach the destination. After hearing Annie's words, Lin gets really excited and asks how she knew that. Little girl Annie says that she's just guessing. She doesn't know the correct tunnel. She also mentions that a special magic is coming from that direction. The pink-haired girl says to Annie that she's speaking nonsense and questions why she didn't feel the magic Annie mentioned. She insults her and says a mere 4-star mage should not make random comments here. After hearing the cold words from the pink-haired girl, Annie gets scared and asks for forgiveness. The pink-haired girl says that they haven't explored the bottom, and according to known exploration, the last passage has the least monsters. She said, "Master, we should go this way." After hearing the pink-haired girl's words, the horseman asks the cat girl what she thinks. She says that she still thinks it's better to act in small teams so they can explore faster. Another girl says that she thinks it's better to listen to Glee, the pink-haired girl. Even if they go wrong in the end, they can just go back together. The pink-haired girl asks the horseman to trust her. She will scout them safely to the treasure. The horseman thought about it and said they'd act together in the last cave. After hearing the horseman's words, Annie shouted loudly, saying they could go anywhere else but not the last cave. She started casting her puppet magic and summoned a cute little rabbit doll. She asked her rabbit doll to go to the last tunnel, and in the next moment, a huge monster came out from the tunnel and ate the rabbit doll, leaving only its head. After witnessing this horrible scene, Lin's whole body was shaking with fear. He asked everyone, "What is that thing?" Elizabeth replied, "That is a parasitic beast, usually found in the bodies of huge monsters." The cat girl asked the pink-haired girl if the explored area was the corpse in its stomach. After that, the pink-haired girl was really angry at Annie because she exposed her. After some time, Elizabeth said to let them struggle here by themselves and asked Lin to go. Lin scratched his head and asked Elizabeth if it would be best if she could lead the way. They don't know what danger is waiting for them, and Elizabeth and Lin started heading to the tunnel. Little girl Annie asked them if that direction is right and asked them to wait for her. In the next moment, the cat girl asked his master, the horseman, if she should use a clone to follow them and collect information. The horseman told the cat girl that they don't need to. He thought that Elizabeth, having seen the horror of the mimic worm, wouldn't be able to make such a calm choice without confidence. It seems that Elizabeth's background is not so simple. The horseman told his wives that they would go and follow them for the time being, and they started following Elizabeth. On the other side, deep in the dungeon, we saw a huge glowing monster eye. Monsters start attacking on the them. They begin fighting with the monster. The horseman asks his wife if they have solved it there. The warrior girl says that they have killed all remaining monsters, but the monsters on this road keep coming in waves, and they never stop. On the other side, Leping and little girl Annie are hiding behind Elizabeth. Leping asks Elizabeth if it's safe now, and if there are any monsters remaining. Elizabeth turns her head to Lin, visibly angry, and tells him that he is a truly terrible actor. The pink-haired girl says to Annie that it's all her fault, pointing out the road she led them to, which is full of monsters along the way. She also mentions that if they had taken her advice, they would have already found the treasure. Elizabeth defends little Annie, saying to the pink-haired girl that the more concentrated the magic, the more monsters naturally gather. She emphasizes that the pink-haired girl should know this as a mage. After hearing this from Elizabeth, the pink-haired girl gets really frustrated. She says that she knows that Elizabeth is a 4-star demon spirit with the ability to defeat the monsters, but she stands by and watches coldly. She also claims that Elizabeth is despicable and doesn't care about anyone. Elizabeth replies that this is their problem and what they agreed upon before leaving, to solve the monsters they encounter. The horseman steps forward and asks the pink-haired girl to calm down, reminding her that they promised to protect them. Hearing this, the pink-haired girl gets even angrier. The horseman turns his head to Elizabeth and says with a nice smile that it's okay. It's his honor to escort Miss Elizabeth. After hearing their conversation, the pink-haired girl is really angry, thinking that Elizabeth not only embarrassed her, but also dared to seduce the master. The elf girl suggests to the horseman that they rest for a while, emphasizing the need to recover their energy after fighting with monsters for so long. Elizabeth doesn't agree with their idea, stating that she doesn't have extra time to waste on them. The cat girl is frustrated with Elizabeth, asking why, if she's so good, she doesn't just go on by herself. The elf girl agrees, pointing out that if it weren't for them blocking all kinds of monsters, they wouldn't be so relaxed. The horseman steps forward and urges Elizabeth to listen, suggesting that it's better for everyone to rest and recover some energy. He offers some elf potion, explaining that after drinking it, they can recover their status. Lin, curious about the potion, asks Elizabeth if he can try it, making a cute little puppy face and suggesting it might give him some new inspiration for his cooking. Elizabeth thinks that Lin has already enjoyed many good things and wants to experience something ordinary. She gives him permission, and later, they set up their camp to get some rest. The pink-haired girl praises Galia's elf potion, mentioning that it really works, and the warrior girl states that she has finally recovered, though she's unsure how long it will take to find the treasure. The elf girl retrieves a potion from her storage ring and offers it to Elizabeth, calling it her special elf potion that enhances various states. Elizabeth, being powerful, declines, but the horseman intervenes, telling the elf girl not to be rude and instructing her to give a potion to everyone. Unhappily, she tosses a potion to Elizabeth, who catches it but isn't pleased. Elizabeth gives the potion to Lin, who after tasting it, finds the grassy flavor too strong and decides not to drink it. He offers it to Annie, who thanks him but explains that she hasn't used much magic power so she doesn't need it. After hearing Lin's criticism of his potion, the elf girl expresses displeasure, deeming it a waste on someone with no magic power. Elizabeth, not pleased with the elf girl's words, dumps the potion into the fire, further infuriating her. She questions Elizabeth about dumping her elf potion, to which Elizabeth coldly responds that she agrees with the elf girl's thoughts, showing no regard for the potions. Lin intervenes, calming everyone down and stating that he has something for everyone that shouldn't be crushed. He retrieves bananas from his bag, expressing his desire to share them. Lin gives a banana to the horseman and distributes bananas to everyone. Finally, he gives an apple to Annie, mentioning that the bananas have all been divided and asking if she can eat an apple. Annie gets emotional after receiving the apple. She asks if he's really giving it to her, surprising Lin, who thought it was just an apple, and sees no need for tears. Annie asks Lin if she can take the apple back to her brother and sister. The orphans in the orphanage haven't eaten fresh fruit for a long time. After hearing Annie's story, Lin understands why she is crying. He tells her that, of course, she can take it back, and he'll pick some more for her when he gets home to send over. Lin promises Annie that everyone in the orphanage can eat fresh fruit. The pink-haired girl throws the banana that Leping gave her, saying she doesn't care about this rotten fruit and doesn't need it. The elf girl also agrees, stating that it can't be compared with her elf potion. The horseman suggests they fill their stomachs for now, and when they get the treasure, he'll treat them to something good. They start eating bananas, and after the first bite, they feel something strange. Their bodies start glowing, and in the next moment, they find themselves in the forest. They ask what place it is, and suddenly, 3 mantises appear and start singing. They ask the group to dance with them, and all 3 of them start dancing. Lin is confused, not knowing what they are doing. This is the effect of the banana. The pink-haired girl and elf girl, who didn't eat the banana, are really surprised. The elf girl asks the horseman what he's doing. In the next moment after eating bananas, the horseman and his wives level up, and they don't understand what's going on. Their magic levels are constantly rising. After seeing their dance performance, Lin is surprised. He claps and calls it a bonfire performance, expressing his genuine liking for it. Lin also mentions that the cultural customs of the other world are really interesting, making it worth coming out to see centaurs dancing. Elizabeth, observing Lin's happiness, thinks that Lin is aware of the potential danger ahead, enhanced them in advance to continue this game. On the other hand, the elf girl, who didn't eat the banana, is puzzled and asks what's going on. She wonders how their magic levels suddenly skyrocketed so much. Seeing their surprise, Annie explains that it's because they ate Brother Lin's bananas. However, the pink-haired girl doesn't believe Annie's words. She dismisses it, stating it's nonsense and questioning if those broken bananas are soaked in holy water to provide a status boost. The warrior girl says to the pink-haired girl, Gilia, that it was the banana that made them break through and advance. She mentions ascending to a 2-star demon spirit just a few seconds after eating the banana. The cat girl agrees, stating that just after they ate the banana, they entered a new realm. She wonders if the banana was enchanted by a magician of the demon sovereign level. The horseman adds that after eating, even he broke through 3 stages in a row, directly ascending to a 3-star great demon spirit, finding it unbelievable. He asks Lin about the origin of the bananas he gave them. On the other side, Lin is really confused. He doesn't understand the horseman's words. For Lin, these bananas are just ordinary. Getting this reaction from Lin, the horseman asks what's wrong. Lin says nothing, mentioning that being suddenly asked by him. He doesn't know how to answer, because they are just ordinary bananas. The horseman is not pleased with Lin's words, thinking it should be a hybrid crop that Lin grew with some magic item. Lin clarifies that he grew these bananas with natural and organic farming, a production method he thought of in this world full of magic. Hearing about the magical banana from their master, the pink-haired girl and the elf girl decide to eat it to increase their magic levels. After taking a bite, the banana rots, and the pink-haired girl throws it away, saying it's clearly bad. After seeing this, little Annie says it's synchronicity. Elizabeth praises her for knowing what synchronicity is. Annie mentions that she learned it from the magic books. At the same time, the horseman asks Annie what synchronicity means. Annie explains that the nuns' magic books mentioned special treasures usually have to be used under special conditions to exert their effects. She guesses that Lei Ping's banana had to be eaten by 3 or more people at the same time to produce an effect. Upon hearing this, the pink-haired girl gets angry at Annie, questioning why she pretends to know things she doesn't. She points out that Elizabeth ate the banana herself, and hers didn't rot. Annie apologizes, admitting she doesn't know either but suggests that unless the user's strength completely surpasses the treasure, it's nothing but an ordinary thing to them. On the other side, Elizabeth eats her banana without any problems and warns Annie not to look at her with those eyes. Annie apologizes, and the elf girl suggests that maybe it's because of his accumulated elf potion over time that produced the effect. The horseman asks Lin if he can share more fruits from his backpack to test if it's real. The elf girl questions if the horseman actually believes their nonsense about the magical banana. Lin happily says that sharing is the greatest joy and starts getting more fruits from his bag. Meanwhile, Elizabeth has already finished eating his banana. She snatches Lin's bag and declares that these are what she's going to eat later. She refuses to give her precious fruits to anyone and tells Lin to leave when they've rested enough because the journey is almost over. Lin apologizes to the horseman and says he will treat him well when he has the chance. The horseman understands the situation and tells Lin to go ahead. He'll catch up with his wives after packing up. Lin is grateful and suggests they set off together, but Elizabeth interrupts, urging him to hurry up or she will leave without him. Lin agrees and asks the horseman to gather up ahead and meet later. Seeing this, the horseman's wives are not happy, the cat girl whispers, suggesting they snatch that backpack away, as they might be hiding something even better. The horseman calms down his wives and says, "There's no rush. It's not the right time yet." He also mentions that ordinary people wouldn't casually carry such precious treasures, so she's definitely not a simple princess from a remote tribe. Recently, one of the 4 major powers, the Kingdom of Aristotle, is offering a high reward for information on the missing princess. If he is not mistaken, that princess is right in front of him now. If he can turn the princess into his woman during this opportunity, he can climb the ranks of the Kingdom of Aristotle's power. By then, he'll gain more than just these magical fruits before him. He starts laughing loudly and declares he will conquer Elizabeth and make her one of his harem girls. After seeing the horseman like this, his 4 wives start praising him, saying a charming pheromone is emanating from the master. They blame themselves, stating that they haven't been able to satisfy their master yet. In the depths of the labyrinth, many monsters hide in the shadows. One of them is the Shadow Wolf leader, a powerful monster who suddenly becomes really scared and runs away from there. In the next moment, 3 individuals entered the cave: Elizabeth, Leping, and the little girl, Annie. Lin asks Elizabeth about the darkening labyrinth and if there really is an exit. Elizabeth replies, "Didn't I already tell you the labyrinth is just an appearance, and we are almost there?" They start heading deeper into the cave, and from the cave's ceiling, something comes out. Little girl Annie gets really scared when she hears those noises. She tells Lin that something is approaching them. Leping asks Annie to explain clearly, but suddenly, something approaches them at high speed, and smoke covers everyone. When the smoke clears, we see the horseman arriving with his wives. He apologizes for keeping everyone waiting and asks Elizabeth for forgiveness. He also offers to serve Elizabeth for the rest of the way, suggesting that Elizabeth can even sit on his back. However, he doesn't realize that Elizabeth is a self-independent woman. She tells the horseman to get lost, stating that he's not qualified to be her mount. But the elf girl is not really happy. She calls Elizabeth an arrogant woman and asks her not to be shameless when their master gives her face. But in the next moment, that elf girl's head explodes. Everyone gets really surprised. They don't know what happened. Suddenly, some stones fall from above. When Lin turns his head to the ceiling, he sees many insect monsters, dragon fleas, who ate the elf girl's head. One of them jumps from the ceiling and opens its big mouth full of sharp teeth to attack Elizabeth. However, it doesn't know who Elizabeth is. Elizabeth's eyes glow red, and in the next moment, the monster explodes. Little girl Annie gets really scared, thinking that they're done for, and now everyone is going to die. Lin is also scared and runs to Elizabeth, catching her leg, and says it's a matter of life and death. He asks Elizabeth what they are going to do now. When Elizabeth sees what Lin is doing, she thinks Lin wants to test human nature and let the selfish and arrogant ones destroy themselves first. She believes this is Lin's first step to test them. All the dragon flea monsters start attacking with high speed. The warrior girl gets the carriage and transforms it into a shield. The pink-haired girl starts casting the spells Shield Transformation and Shield Blade, creating a shield barrier and getting the horseman and warrior girl inside. After seeing that, Lin asks, "What about us?" The horseman smiles and tells Lin to find a way by themselves, thinking this is a good opportunity to find out the strength of Elizabeth. If she doesn't make a move, her servant and the girl will be eaten by the monsters. The warrior girl arrogantly says, "Who cares about you now? The cooperation is over." The pink-haired girl laughs and tells Lin to just stay outside and be bait. But suddenly, the barrier she created gets destroyed, and her head goes flying. Seeing the pink-haired girl's head flying in the air, the warrior girl gets really scared. Now that the pink-haired girl is killed, the magic barrier she set up disappears, and monsters start attacking the horseman and his 2 remaining wives. On the other side, Lin is still hiding behind Elizabeth. The horseman uses his thunderbolt flash to kill monsters in just 1 attack. The warrior girl also uses her shield strike and kills the monsters. The cat girl is an assassination type. She uses her short blade technique to kill. But no matter how she kills these monsters, they seem never-ending. If this goes on, they will be exhausted at this rate. When the cat girl rests for a second, suddenly, a monster starts attacking her from above. Luckily, the horseman saves her after using his clapping thunder backstep. But no matter how many monsters they kill, there seems to be no end to this. Elizabeth asks Lin if he sees their true colors. Does he still want to continue this adventure game with them? Leping says, "Forget it. Coming here is to pay back the favor was wrong, and as they say, it's time to part ways. He thinks that the outside world is truly unpredictable, and maybe farming in the village suits him better. Elizabeth smiles because she thought that Lin first makes them swell, then determines if they have any value worth saving. This is his third step. She asks Leping to get ready to go out. Hearing this, Lin asks, "Go out? Is there any way?" She grabs Lin's hand and while pulling him, she tells him that the way is just ahead. But in the next moment, a monster approaches from behind and attacks little girl Annie. Annie gets really scared, and because of that, her normal eyes turn red. Her bunny doll transforms into a giant bunny and kills the monster with a single attack. After killing the monster, it changes back to a normal bunny. Little girl Annie catches it, but she doesn't know what happened just now. But before she can think anything, Lin asks her to come with them. Elizabeth suddenly stops and knocks in the air, and an invisible barrier appears in front. She starts casting a magic spell, and a few seconds later, the magic barrier disappears, and a really giant door comes out. Lin is really surprised to see that the exit is a hidden giant door. The giant door starts opening, and Elizabeth enters, asking Lin and Annie to hurry up and catch up with her. The horseman is staring at Lin, but Lin doesn't give a thought about him. He asks Annie to let's go. After Elizabeth, both of them go through the door. On the other side, the horseman and his wives are fighting with monsters. The horseman asks his wives to hurry up and get on his back. He is really angry and shouts, "Do they think they can shake us off like this?" He starts running to the giant door with full speed. A moment later, they reach the door and enter before it closes. And when they enter, they get really surprised. The room is filled with gold and jewelries. They all were really surprised that they're standing on a flying island filled with treasure. Lin gets really excited seeing all that. He said, "There's so much gold now, we are rich." Little girl Annie is also standing there thinking if they can really take some of it. Suddenly that horseman comes and pushes Lin to the side. His wife pushes little girl Annie as well. The horseman stands in front, and after seeing the treasure, he starts to smile, thinking that the treasure he's been working so hard to get really exists. The treasure he is talking about is the Demon King's nectar. Lin interrupts them and said, "Now that we've found the treasure, we have to share this. We don't ask for your gratitude, so don't be too unreasonable." But the horseman is not happy. He looks back at Lin and replies, "Yes, I didn't expect you all to be so helpful in filling the numbers." He smiles like a demon and says, "As a thank you, I will let you die quickly." However, before the horseman tries to do anything, the gold coins start to fall, and a big yellow eye opens from the gold coins. The whole island starts shaking suddenly, and a big dragon appears in front of everyone. It was the golden dragon, owner of all the treasure. Seeing the dragon, Lin was really surprised. He calls Elizabeth and asks her to look at the dragon. This is the first time Lin has seen a real dragon, but Elizabeth doesn't seem to care. On the other side, little girl Annie's whole body is shaking with fear, and she mentions that there's something more terrifying hidden. Suddenly, her eyes turn black, and she said, "Master, what do we do now?" Seeing little girl Annie like that, Elizabeth gets suspicious, but before she can say something, the golden dragon roars loudly at the horseman and his wives. The warrior girl asks the horseman and cat girl what should they do since the dragon is really powerful. However, the horseman ignores them, asking them to buy him some time and let him charge up to kill the dragon with one strike. The cat girl and warrior girl agree and were about to start attacking the dragon. But the dragon attacks them first. All three of them back down and get ready. The warrior girl asks the cat girl to distract its attention so she can attack properly. The cat girl tells her to leave everything to her. Using her clone technique, she creates 100 clones and starts attacking the dragon. On the other side, the horseman looks at the dragon and smiles. He thinks that now the giant dragon is the only threat, so he doesn't need to hide his power anymore. He decides to call upon all his magic to gather energy for his strongest move, Swift Thunder Flash. He stands and starts gathering all his energy into his sword. His sword starts glowing. On the other side, the cat girl continuously attacks the dragon with her assassination technique. But for some reason, her skills are not working, and she can't get a single scratch on the dragon. Suddenly, the warrior girl, who is also powered up, asks the cat girl to let her handle it now. She uses her skill, Shield Transformation Blaster, and throws her really big shield at the dragon. There are some rockets in that shield which also start to boost the speed of the throw. The shield does not miss and directly hits that golden dragon. The warrior girl is happy, thinking it worked. This is the new move she learned after becoming a 2-star demon spirit. But all her happiness shatters when she sees that the dragon doesn't get any scratches after being hit by a massive shield. Now, it gets really angry at the warrior girl and attacks her with its giant foot. The warrior girl, without her shield, is unable to protect herself. She gets smashed by the dragon's foot, leaving only her smashed body and some blood on the ground. After seeing this horrifying scene, the cat girl gets really mad. She starts using her 1,000-person clone technique. In the next moment, thousands of cat girls come out and start attacking the dragon. The cat girl says, "Although I can't do much damage to you, it should be enough to disturb you." But she misunderstands the dragon. The dragon opens her wings and uses his skill, Golden Hurricane. All the gold coins surrounding him start creating a tornado around him. He uses the gold coins to throw and kill the clans of the cat girl. One by one, all the cat girl's clones start to die. In the next moment, when the dragon gets faster, Lynn and Elizabeth also start getting attacked by these gold coins. Lynn is standing there without doing anything, and those gold coins just fly by him. Elizabeth looks at Lynn and says, "Lynn, you are so calm, but that's to be expected from you." But Elizabeth doesn't know that Lynn is really scared, and he almost died just now. But the dragon doesn't stop and continues his attack. Little girl Annie's eyes again turn black, and she uses her dollhouse release summon technique. Suddenly, a massive bear comes out and stands in front of them to defend. It starts protecting them from the dragon's attack. At the same time, when the horseman is casting his skill, some of the gold coins fly towards him. But the cat girl notices that and jumps to protect her master. She starts defending him with her sword. However, when she thinks everything is fine, a gold coin comes flying and splits her head. Now only the horseman remains. He completes his skill casting and uses his 300% lightning flash technique to attack. He was confident that as this strike, even a demon spirit can't block. He aims at the dragon's neck, but his skill doesn't work, and the dragon is standing unscratched. On the other side, his sword broke into pieces. The horseman was shocked. He doesn't know what happened. While the horseman was worried about his sword, suddenly the dragon attacks him using its tail. The horseman goes flying, and while hitting the treasure mountain, he goes to the other side of that island. This happened because the horseman doesn't realize that the dragon they're fighting is a 4-star level demon sect monster. After dealing with that horseman, now the dragon stands in front of Lynn's group. After seeing the horseman's fight with the dragon, Lynn thought, "Did the centaur die from its tail slap? Looks like I have to use my trump card." So he calls Elizabeth. Elizabeth asks him, what is he going to do next? Lynn, with a serious expression, tells Elizabeth to take action. Elizabeth is surprised, thinking, did Lynn find out already? But she was wrong. Lynn was scared. He tells her to take action. Otherwise, they might die. Elizabeth, with an annoyed expression, tells Lynn not to order her in front of outsiders. She is angry, thinking Lynn wants to use little girl Annie to threaten her. While both of them were talking, suddenly little girl Annie said, "The real terror hasn't come yet. We might never get out of here." Hearing this, something feels off to Elizabeth. She went to little girl Annie and examined her. She immediately realizes that little girl Annie has the bloodline of Jimji. She asks Annie to let her see what her magic is all about. Elizabeth placed her hand on Annie's head, and a purple light surrounded her body. After that, Annie started remembering her past when she was playing and eating with her younger siblings. One day, black robe monsters attacked them, and when they tried to kill Annie and her siblings, Annie suddenly awakened her bloodline power, killing all of them but losing control and also killing her younger siblings. The trauma of that day did not leave Annie's side, so Annie forcibly suppressed her magic to alter her memory. After finding out this, Elizabeth released her magic and let go of Annie. When Annie falls to the ground and Elizabeth tells little girl Annie how stupid she is and released her magic. Little girl Annie started crying, saying, "It's all my fault, brother and sister. I killed you. I'm sorry." But Elizabeth didn't care. She told Annie that Annie is a disgrace to the Jimji clan's bloodline, and if she wants to escape from the prison of regret and stand up and fight for her. After hearing Elizabeth's words, Annie agreed. She stood up saying, "At least this time I want to protect Brother Leping." She started floating in the sky. Lynn was shocked to see her like that. Then Annie used her puppet magic summoning magic skill. Suddenly many big and powerful puppets made of Annie's soft doll appeared. Seeing all those puppets, that golden dragon got angry and started attacking Annie, but her panda puppet blocked the dragon's attack with its fluffy body. Then Panda grabbed the dragon's leg so it couldn't move. On the other side, the rabbit doll started attacking the dragon, striking multiple times in the same spot. Because of those continuous attacks, the golden dragon's hard body starts to break, and the dragon screams in pain. Lynn asked Elizabeth what did she do to Annie just now, and how did Annie change so much. Elizabeth told Lynn that she did nothing much, just made Annie accept reality. The golden dragon attacked the rabbit again and pushed it to the ground. Annie struggled with the dragon. She commanded her rabbit puppet to grab the dragon's other leg. When the dragon attacked the rabbit, it grabbed its hand. Both the panda and rabbit were preventing the dragon from moving, and little girl Annie commanded her snake puppet to attack the dragon. The snake puppet grabbed the dragon's whole body and started attacking. The dragon used its golden hurricane to counter, but little girl Annie's eagle puppet used its wind magic to stop the dragon's attack. All the coins that were meant to kill start to fly away because of wind magic. Lynn was genuinely surprised after seeing Annie's power. He praised that Annie is truly amazing. At the moment, Lynn remembers what Elizabeth said before. He asks her what does she mean by Annie having the Jimji bloodline. But before he could finish his words, someone grabbed Lynn's bag and snatched it with lightning flash. Because of that, Lynn fell on the ground. The one who attacked Lynn was the horseman, who was still alive. He got Lynn's bag containing magical fruits. Seeing him alive, Elizabeth said, "This scum hasn't died yet." On the other side, Lynn, who was robbed of his bag, asks him to give back the bag. But the horseman pays no attention to them. He opens the bag and takes out Lynn's fruits, and while laughing like a creep, he says, "Lynn, the trump cards of yours, fruits of the realm, are now mine." He starts eating Lynn's magical fruits, and one by one, he eats all of them without stopping. Lynn doesn't understand and asks him, "What is he doing?" Lynn says, "It's already late, and you still want to eat." But after eating Lynn's magical fruits, something starts changing in the horseman's body. Purple smoke appears from his body, and his eyes start to shine. He shouts, "Here comes my true power." And suddenly, his body starts to grow. All the armor he was wearing falls one by one, and with that, the horseman transforms into an ugly monster. He is now a Hawthorne Therius, and his level is unknown. He exclaims that, this power that keeps pouring out has awakened unprecedented strength in his body. He starts laughing like a villain. The horseman says that with this power, he is no longer afraid of those old guys from the Sword Saint Guild. Hearing all his trash talk, that golden dragon gets really angry, and before the horseman could complete his words, the golden dragon starts attacking him with its dragon breath. But the horseman dodges the dragon's attack with lightning speed and suddenly appears in front of the dragon's face. He shouts, "Stop bothering me, you lizard." He prepares his thunder kick and attacks the golden dragon in the face. The golden dragon flies away and falls on the ground with a single blow. After killing the dragon, he heads to the treasure which was placed in the middle, lifting the coffin filled with some kind of liquid. Horseman says, "If I add this, I can't even imagine how strong I will become." He starts drinking it, and that thing's effect immediately starts to show. His eyes turn red and changes start happening in his body. Horns emerge from his head, and wings start to pop out from his back. He evolves into the evil face form. He looks at where Lynn and others were and says, "It's worthy of being the Demon King's sweet wine." Now I gradually understood everything. When Lynn sees that the horseman is getting weirder and weirder, he asks Elizabeth to hurry up and do something. But little girl Annie, who was standing in front, acts brave and tells Lynn not to worry. She says, "I won't let him get close to you, Brother Leping." She starts casting her puppet magic, but before she could complete it, the horseman immediately closes the gap and stabs her with his arm. He kills little girl Annie and says, "First, I will eliminate some as a threat." Lynn is shocked seeing Annie like that, his eyes filled with tears. The horseman throws Annie and heads toward Lynn, saying, "Next is his turn." But Lynn runs to Annie. He grabs Annie's hand and tells her to hang in there because Elizabeth will save her. On the other side, the horseman comes to Elizabeth. He says, "I know you are hiding your strength, but it doesn't matter." Now, he goes face to face with Elizabeth and says, "I will give you two choices. First, willingly become my woman, then take me back to your kingdom and help me inherit everything. Second, be slowly played by me until you become a waste, and then be used by me as a bargaining chip to get what I want. Saying that, he starts to laugh, which looks very disgusting with his face. Lin is really angry and asks Elizabeth to kill the horseman now. After hearing Lin's words, the horseman gets angry, saying, "Is it not your turn to talk, you trash servant?" He jumps towards Lin and starts attacking Lin with his Thunder Road. But when he attacks Lin, a huge explosion happens there, and the horseman goes flying, and all his legs break down. Smoke covers everyone, and when the smoke starts to disappear, we see Leping saying, "Fine, I won't pretend anymore now." The horseman pulls back himself. He was really confused about what just happened, feeling as if all the damage caused by his attack was instantly rebounded at him. He looks at Elizabeth in front and asks her if she did that. But Elizabeth ignores him because all her focus was on Lin. She already knows that even her, the Demon Queen's magic, can't harm the clothes Lin created with his own hands. So she thinks Lin deliberately made the horseman attack just now to let him pave the road to his own destruction. Lin's clothes are shining in a beautiful blue light. He tells the horseman that everyone calls him the hero. But wait a minute. Is he finally going to show his power? Nah, just kidding. In the next moment, Lin comes to his senses. He is really nervous, thinking it is just as he thought. Lin thinks that since he serves Elizabeth and provides her delicious food, she protects him in exchange. Therefore, as long as he is useful to her, she won't let him die. No matter the degree of danger, it's not worth mentioning in front of the Demon Queen. Anyone who wishes to kill him is the same as them trying to destroy the Queen's rice bowl. On the other hand, the horseman thinks Elizabeth is truly baffling. He laughs like a devil and says, "Elizabeth, you are so prideful and forgetful, but I only used less than half of my strength just now." He looks at Elizabeth with an angry expression and says, "Women, when facing a great stallion like me, you could have found joy. But Elizabeth, you decided to reject my iron hoof." The horseman shouts, "If that's your wish, then die for me." He jumps in the air to attack Elizabeth, saying, "The next one will be a full blow. If you have the ability, keep rebounding, and let's see if you succeed." But before he attacks Elizabeth, someone attacks him. His face gets crushed, and he falls on the ground with a solid impact. Elizabeth, who is standing there without any fear, asks, "Have you finally woken up?" The horseman is lying on the ground, and all the bones in his body are crushed. He is in too much pain and asks her what just happened. His condition is not looking good. Suddenly something slowly comes out from the sky. It is the golden dragon, which is so big that the floating island they all were standing on looks tiny in front of the dragon. After witnessing this moment, the horseman, who can die any minute, realizes this is the dragon's true form. But he is really confused, thinking about the one he just killed. What was that? Suddenly, the dragon the horseman just killed starts melting. After melting, that dragon merges into the dragon tail. Elizabeth looks at the golden dragon and thinks, "Are you using your tail as a pet teaser? That's a little trick I often used to play with you before." This is the Dragon Void Realm form, and she is the Golden Dragon Queen. Her rank is a 1-star Demon King. She is really big and can destroy the whole island with her hand. The horseman is too scared after looking at the golden dragon's true form. He says it's impossible because he has the power of a demon king, so there's no way he can lose. But before he says something more, the dragon kills him. The dragon uses her fingertip to kill him, and with this, the horseman is finally dead. Lin is really surprised and asks Elizabeth if this is real. Elizabeth misunderstands Lin. She thinks Lin is pretending and has already discovered the golden dragon a long time ago. Suddenly, everything turns gold, and the whole island starts disappearing. Elizabeth explains to Lin that this space where they are isn't real. It's just an illusion that the dragon created. After everything disappears, everyone is floating. Lin is really surprised to see themselves floating in space. Elizabeth gets annoyed after seeing Lin like this and says, "Even if magic is your weak spot, this wouldn't escape your perception." In the next moment, the dragon says something to Elizabeth in the demon language, and Elizabeth also replies to him in the demon language. After hearing Elizabeth's words, the dragon starts crying like a 4-year-old child, and tears start falling from her eyes. Suddenly, smoke covers the dragon's whole body, and that giant golden dragon turns into a cute loli. While crying, she said, "Master, it's really you. I was waiting for you to be back." This crybaby Loki is Amelia, Elizabeth's pet. Amelia hugs Elizabeth tightly. Elizabeth looks at her and says, "You have already been promoted to the Demon King level. Are you still that naive?" Elizabeth originally didn't want to come here and wake Amelia up because she's so clingy. But Amelia catches Elizabeth's leg and while crying says, "Master, don't leave me again. You have been gone for 500 years without a word. Do you know how much I missed you?" Amelia started telling how she met Elizabeth. Amelia was born between heaven and earth, and Elizabeth was the one who found her in the lost secret realm and hatched her with her magical power. They formed a servant and master contract. Elizabeth not only gave her a name, Amelia, but also personally guided her, trained her, and played with her. So Amelia made a sacred oath that she would definitely protect and serve her master. After she grew up, she became her master's mount, carrying her around to fight against vile creatures. Later, in order to put an end to the constant wars, Elizabeth decided to rule the world. Amelia was happy to see her master achieve world domination one step at a time. But since then, she saw that Elizabeth's smile has become fainter and fainter. Amelia thought that Elizabeth is getting stronger, and she is too weak to help her. Unexpectedly, when Amelia went to patrol the world in Elizabeth's stead, Elizabeth went to pull out the holy sword to find the legendary hero, and there has been no news since then. In the conference room, everyone is really sad after Elizabeth goes to search for the hero. Aristotle, minister of mankind, says that 10 years have passed, and Her Majesty's reputation can only intimidate everyone and barely keep the situation stable. In fact, there have been undercurrents surging, and the crime rate continues to rise. Mughal, minister of orcs, agrees with him. He adds that several great chiefs of the orc tribe have already announced their separation from the tribe. They can't be suppressed without Her Majesty's aid. Heimerdinger, minister of dwarves, says that they can't just do nothing and be like sitting ducks. Otherwise, the longer the hidden danger is let to brew, the greater the damage it will cause when it breaks out. He suggests everyone go to their respective regions and stabilize the situation while waiting for Her Majesty's return. Twyla, minister of elves, asks Jim, who has been following Her Majesty the longest, what does he think? Did Her Majesty really encounter any issues with that legendary hero? Jim, minister of demons, replies that it's impossible. He has seen Her Majesty's terrifying power. No way there is anyone in the world who can threaten that. He told them that they can do whatever they want, but he will find Her Majesty himself. The human prince agrees with Jim. He told everyone to disperse. He will find Her Majesty in his own way. In the end, the ministers scattered everything and divided the regions. Amelia was not interested in any of that, so she only took half a glass of wine. She returned to the place where Elizabeth first found her, believing that Elizabeth would come here one day. So she started waiting for Elizabeth with his favorite wine glass. Time passed. Winter came. She was still waiting for Elizabeth. Many more years later, she is still waiting for Elizabeth, her half of the body covered by the ground. Many more years later, she is still there, her whole body covered in the ground. That's how she was waiting for Elizabeth. In the present time, Emily is crying while grabbing Elizabeth's clothes, saying, "Finally, Master has returned." Elizabeth replies, "Isn't that great? It seems like the long wait has taught you to let go of your playfulness and grasp meditation, which is the key step to reaching the Demon King level." Emily doesn't pay any attention to Elizabeth's words. She asks Elizabeth not to leave her behind again. She misunderstood that Elizabeth left without a word for 500 years, just so Amelia can grasp meditation and reach the Demon King level. Everything Elizabeth has done was for her. Lynn interrupts their conversation and asks Elizabeth to stop talking about the past because she has to quickly save little Annie. But suddenly, little Annie opens her eyes and asks Lynn where they are. Lynn is really happy after hearing Annie's voice. He asks her if she is all right. Little Annie replies that she is okay but starts crying, saying the apple brother gave her was crushed. Lynn, who is relieved that nothing big happened, told little Annie that it's not a problem. Don't worry about it. On the other hand, Elizabeth misunderstood Lynn again, thinking everything was under Lynn's control. He laid the groundwork when dividing the bananas. Amelia was like a child. She didn't let go of Elizabeth's clothes and continuously called her name. However, Elizabeth was not looking at her. She was looking at Lynn. Amelia got angry after seeing Elizabeth keep staring at Lynn. She was thinking, why does her master keep staring at that man when she didn't even look at her twice? She asked Elizabeth, who is he? Elizabeth replied that he is the legendary hero, and she stayed at his house while she was away. Amelia is not happy after hearing Elizabeth's words. She thinks the legendary hero Lynn is the one who kidnapped Elizabeth. And after 500 years, he still wants to steal her master's heart from her. She decides to settle the old and new grudges with Lin once and for all. She calls Lin very angrily. Lin says hello to Amelia, saying, "My name is Leping. Nice to meet you." But Amelia is thinking something else. She smiles, thinking that now, since she can catch up to Elizabeth after reaching the Demon King level, if she joins forces with Elizabeth, she can definitely kill the legendary hero. She used her Dragon King's claw and started attacking Lin. But in the next moment, Amelia's attack reflects just like Horseman. She doesn't know what just happened. On the other side, Lin, who is standing fine, asks Amelia for forgiveness, saying he couldn't react on time. Amelia is too shocked because her attack just now was strong enough to destroy a town, and it bounced off just like that, after touching Lin. Lin approaches her and says, it's his turn to take the initiative now. Amelia is really scared after what happened just now. She thinks this is not less oppressive than her master. Lin can actually suppress her with his momentum. She was very scared and covers her face, asking Lin not to come any closer to her. But Lin was not there to hurt her. He grabs her hand and helps her stand up. He says sorry to her that he didn't receive her handshake. He looks at Elizabeth and says, "No wonder you are so calm, Elizabeth. It turns out this dragon girl is your friend." Amelia doesn't know what Lin is saying. Elizabeth replies, "Lin, you can also say that, but to be more specific, she is my mount." After hearing that Amelia is Elizabeth's mount, Lin starts having some really stupid thoughts. In the next moment, Elizabeth snaps her fingers, and suddenly a purple smoke surrounds everyone. They all disappear into that smoke, and in the next moment, they teleport into the beginner's village. Elizabeth said this will be all for today. Amelia is really impressed after seeing Elizabeth's skills, saying, "Master is so cool." Because that was something Amelia could only create after stepping into the Demon King realm. But Elizabeth absorbed it in an instant with no effort at all. She is truly worthy of being called a monster. Lin was also happy, saying it's that easy to return. He thought that as long as he held onto Elizabeth's thigh tightly, all his troubles would be nothing more than child's play. But little Annie is not happy because Lin's house was too far away, and so she passed out from the teleportation. Elizabeth asks Lin to please send Annie in first so she can rest, and Elizabeth still has some things to tell Amelia. Leping says okay to Elizabeth, and gets little Annie into the house. After Lin left, Amelia, with a surprised expression, asks Elizabeth what she wants to say to her. Excited, she asks Elizabeth not to hesitate to give her orders. She can't wait to serve her master. Elizabeth asks Amelia if she has heard about the Demon Realm's Dark Guild. Amelia replies that even if she has not been outside in the past 500 years, she still heard some news of the Demon Realm before she fell asleep. So she explains to Elizabeth that it was established by Malfoy, the Prince of Mankind, and asked Elizabeth if she knows of him. Elizabeth, after hearing this name Malfoy, remembers, saying there seems to be such a person before she came to find the legendary hero. Amelia asks Elizabeth what is it. Does she want to ask him to do something? Is there anything Amelia can't do? She can learn. Elizabeth replies that she doesn't want anything. She heard that it's the Dark Guild carrying out a great number of killings in the pretext of resurrecting her. That has displeased her. After hearing this, Amelia gets really angry, saying, "What do they mean by resurrecting Master? Isn't Master all well? This is simply disrespectful to Master," she asks. "What does Master want her to do?" Elizabeth gives the order to Amelia, saying she should make them disappear completely from this world. But she must not reveal any information about Elizabeth or this place. Amelia obeys her command, and she will do as Elizabeth says. Elizabeth compliments Amelia, saying since she is so obedient, once things are done, Elizabeth will set her free. She can do whatever she wants then. Amelia asks Elizabeth to leave everything to her. She is going to go uproot the Dark Guild now. She was blushing, thinking that Elizabeth will allow her to be free and do whatever she wants. Does this mean she can get into Master's bed every night like back when she was a baby? Amelia is really happy after thinking about this, so she opens her wings and gets into the sky. But when she is flying in the sky, suddenly something starts coming towards her. In the next moment, something hits Amelia, and there was a huge explosion. Elizabeth was watching everything from the ground. That explosion was strong, and Amelia is really confused, thinking, what just happened? Who dares to attack her? She thought that to be able to penetrate her skin, it has to be at the level of Demon Sovereign at least, and it's an extremely dangerous monster. She must eliminate it as it's a potential threat to her master, Elizabeth. The one who attacked Amelia is none other than our overpowered real protagonist, the robot dog, who thinks that Amelia is an intruder. So it adds her as an enemy, activates its target status detected, and sees that Amelia is still alive. It increases its defense level to 2 and starts attacking Amelia. Amelia, who is still confused, suddenly sees something coming towards her. She uses her Dragon King's wings to stop the robot dog's missile attack. Amelia arrogantly said, "Choosing me as your opponent? You've made the wrong choice." But in the next moment, her facial expression completely changed. She gets really shocked after seeing so many missiles coming towards her. Amelia can't block so many missiles and gets hit by them. There was a huge explosion from those missiles. When the smoke goes down, Amelia's whole body was burned and she was barely able to fly. But our robot dog doesn't stop there. It detects that Amelia is alive, so it increases its defense to level 3 and starts preparing to launch its next attack. But before it launches its attack on Amelia, suddenly it hears a voice calling it a stupid dog. This is Elizabeth's voice, and she told the robot dog that this is her person. She asks the robot dog to let her go. The robot dog, trembling with fear after hearing Elizabeth's voice, has received a command and added Amelia into the whitelist. Amelia, after getting this much injured, realizes that this place is very terrifying, and she has to be alert next time. In the house, Lynn is making orange juice for little Annie. He asks Annie if she is feeling dizzy, suggesting she try drinking a glass of orange juice as the orange's taste can clear up her mind. While shaking, she thanks Lynn for his hospitality and starts drinking orange juice. After a sip, she feels something from this orange juice. Each fruit pulp contains rich magic power, and when it bursts open, it forms a fresh torrent of magic power, opening up the nerve cells in her body and sweeping away the fatigue. Annie realizes that this feeling she is getting is highly advanced divine magic. Because of this juice, her mind gets clear. Suddenly she starts seeing a ghost nun. That ghost nun told little Annie to stop suppressing her true self. It was just Annie's imagination. After that, little Annie starts crying, and tears start falling from her eyes. Lynn is exhausted and lies down on his sofa saying, "Indeed, the sofa at home is still so comfortable. Going out on an adventure is not for me." Sometime later, Elizabeth enters the room and asks little Annie if she has remembered everything. Elizabeth explains that Annie's ancestors once swore an oath to her, that the Jims clan would always stay loyal to her. If Annie's bloodline has completely awakened, the power of the oath will too. After hearing Elizabeth's words, little Annie realizes Elizabeth is none other than the legendary demon queen who ruled the world 5,000 years ago. She asks Elizabeth if she is really the legendary demon queen. Elizabeth replies, "Yes, I am the ruler of this world, Elizabeth." But little Annie is really confused because according to ancient records, Elizabeth died with the legendary hero. Annie looks at Lynn and asks if he is legendary. Lynn, after hearing the story about the hero and demon queen, laughs and says, "Although I am a little embarrassed to say this, I should be the hero." Little girl Annie is really surprised after hearing what Leping just said. She thought the truth should be like this. Back then, her brother Leping and sister Elizabeth fought the ultimate battle for the position of the strongest. As a result, within a month of fighting, they developed feelings for each other. And in the end, they gave up fighting for the title of the strongest and fell in love, starting to live in seclusion for 500 years from then on. Elizabeth agrees with little girl Annie, saying what she said is almost true. But Lynn gets angry at Annie, telling her not to talk nonsense. She will offend Elizabeth. Annie apologizes to Lynn for saying that. Elizabeth looks at Annie with disappointment in her eyes, saying that as a descendant of the demon super warrior bloodline, Annie has actually fallen to such a state. She has really embarrassed the demon clan. Lynn is really surprised after finding out that Annie is from the demon clan. Annie is really sad about all that. She doesn't know what to say. But Elizabeth explains that it should have been 600 years ago. A child named Jim awakened his bloodline. His eyes would glow red when he used magic power, and his combat skills were greatly improved. However, as his power grew wildly, he also became extremely violent. Only constant killing could satisfy him. In just a few years, he left Elizabeth's northern territories in chaos. Over 100 elite men under Elizabeth's command were killed by him. The killings grew his ambition, and he actually directly came to Elizabeth's castle in an attempt to challenge her. But unfortunately, Elizabeth quickly defeated him and sealed his violent side. Since then, he has sworn to be loyal to Elizabeth from generation to generation. After hearing this story from Elizabeth, little Annie's whole body starts shaking. She says to Elizabeth that she didn't know anything. From her first memory, she's been living in the church's orphanage. The nuns, brothers, and sisters are her family. Elizabeth explains to little Annie that Annie killed everyone in the orphanage when she went berserk. She couldn't accept the reality, so she imagined that she was waiting for the nun to come back. Elizabeth knows that even if she is not there, but with his power, Jim should be able to become the overlord of the tripartite. Why did he step back like this? What about the others? There is much she doesn't know. But little Annie doesn't want to accept the reality. She says that her brother and sister are still alive. They are waiting for her in the orphanage. Leping is really confused. He asks Elizabeth that didn't they meet Annie's brothers and sisters at the market. Elizabeth says never mind because she doesn't want to explain to him. She uses her skill transfer door, saying let's just expose the lie and see what Annie's so-called younger siblings are. In the next moment, we can see the transfer door opening. On the other side of the door, we can see a bunch of soft dolls lying on the ground. After seeing these soft dolls, little Annie starts calling them brothers and sisters. In the next moment, the dolls transform into Annie's younger siblings, which Lynn saw in the market. They ask Annie to come play with them, saying, "Sister Annie, come back quickly." But before they come near Annie, Elizabeth closes the transfer door, and little Annie's younger siblings again transform into the soft dolls. Elizabeth asks little Annie if she gets it. Annie used all his magic to sustain the dolls. This is why she always stays at the magician level. Lynn was very shocked when he found out the truth. Elizabeth continued explaining that in order to get rid of the Dark Apostles, Annie awakened her bloodline to protect her loved ones, then went berserk and killed them. This is the truth she has been avoiding. Little Annie starts crying. She doesn't want to accept the truth, saying it can't be real. Suddenly her head hurts, and purple energy starts covering Annie's body. She is going to lose control. But before she does something, Elizabeth knocks her out with her finger pinch. Annie lost her consciousness and was falling. Lynn grabbed her in his arms. Elizabeth told Lynn that she knows Lynn wishes to help her, but she must remind him that Annie is only passed out temporarily. If she can't control herself and loses it again, Elizabeth is afraid the whole town will be destroyed. Lynn told Elizabeth that he understands and asks her to let him try to solve this. After Elizabeth knocked out little Annie, Leping took her back to the church so she could get some rest and recover from her past. Some moments later, little girl Annie woke up and asked Leping if he brought her back, seeking forgiveness for inconveniencing him. Leping replied, saying it's nothing like that. Having Elizabeth's portal makes it easy. He asked if she is feeling better now. Little Annie got emotional, her eyes filled with tears. She explained that she remembered everything. There was no nun at all. The murderer was she herself. Lynn started to comfort her, saying she is wrong because everything she did was to protect her siblings. She is not a murderer. However, little Annie started crying, insisting that Lynn is wrong, and it's all her fault. She blamed herself for running away after losing control. Lynn explained to her that it's all the Dark Guild's fault. It wasn't her intention to lose control after awakening her bloodline. He told her to stop blaming herself like that because everyone is lacking materials. But little Annie does not listen to him. She is still thinking that she is the one who killed her own siblings, and this fact will never change. After seeing little Annie, Lynn got the doll and said to Annie that when she was making the dolls, all the details were good. But it's obvious that she was scared of the cotton slipping through, so she made a lot of knots. Even if it is secured, it will result in the doll losing its spirit as a whole. Lynn asked little Annie to let him help her untie the knots and remake it. So, he dismantled every part of little Annie's doll to recreate them. However, after seeing this, little Annie started going out of control again, thinking that Leping is also harming his brother and sisters. After seeing little Annie, Lynn started telling her that Shakespeare once said, "Don't wander under the tree, don't ponder under the rain, and don't cry in the dark." Hearing Leping's words, little Annie found herself in an unknown place surrounded by water. Some moments later, when she came to her senses, she found herself in an unfamiliar place, wondering where she was. Suddenly, a really big hand emerged from the sky, telling little Annie to look forward, don't look back. As long as she has the courage to face it and raise her head up, she will find the current haze to be but a very short rainy season. The sky was too bright, but when Annie looked properly, she saw that it was Lynn in the sky, helping little Annie to control her power. He asked Annie to look forward, emphasizing that there is still a bright sky, which will give her determination. He used his hand to lift little Annie from the water. bringing both of them from darkness to light and giving her new hope. Sometime later, Lin created a new doll for Annie, saying, "This is the doll I remade for you, Annie. His name is Raphael. This is the angel doll, Raphael, that Lin created for little Annie. And you know whatever Lin creates, that item is really overpowered. He hopes it can help her heal. So, he gives this doll to little Annie. After receiving the doll, little Annie became emotional, thinking, this feeling, it's for her brothers and sisters." Suddenly, she started seeing her brothers and sisters playing with Lin. They told little Annie that they're all free and asked her not to worry about them anymore. She has to live well for them. After saying this, they started disappearing, saying goodbye to little Annie. After everything happened, little Annie started crying. She promised her brothers and sisters that she would definitely protect the church. Lin placed his hand on little girl Annie, saying, "After a rain, the sky clears up." After everything happened, Lin felt relieved, thinking it was a good thing he had learned about psychotherapy from books he got from the system before. But to be on the safe side, he still had to come back to check regularly. On the other side, in the demon realm, Death Swamp, when all the dark powers resident, Amelia came here after receiving orders from Elizabeth to find out about the Dark Guild. But after seeing the land, Amelia was unhappy, saying she will never forgive them who turned her master's land into such a mess. This is the same place that Elizabeth ruled 500 years ago. In front was a huge castle that has turned into a total mess. Amelia jumped from the cliff and started heading to the castle so she could get some information about Dark Guild. Suddenly, smoke surrounded Amelia, and she started hearing voices saying that new food has come to the door. Whoever kills her first will get to dismember her. They want her soul. But when Amelia comes close to these voices, she sees many ugly monsters. They want to eat Amelia and devote her soul. But Amelia does not give a thought about them. She killed every monster without moving from her place. She is annoyed, thinking that these guys are treating her master's land as a garbage dump. After witnessing Amelia's power, other monsters get very scared of her. They all give way for Amelia to go while shaking in fear. Suddenly, a purple boss monster appears from a book flying in the air. He asks Amelia who she is, and how dare she come to the Dark Guild to stir up trouble alone. This monster is one of Dark Guild's 6-pillar demons named Thuzad, and he is a level 5-star demon ancestor. He threatens Amelia, stating that he is one of the 6-pillar demons, Thuzad, and asks Amelia to come over. At the same time, in the Dark Guild hall room, there are thousands of monster body parts in some kind of purple bubble, for creating thousands of monster clones. Other 6-pillar demon group members are standing in front of a really large egg, talking with a man who is connected to that large egg. He tells the other 6-pillar members that a powerful one is coming to their door. One of the 6 pillars told him that Ghana's troops were completely wiped out when invading the Sword Saint Guild. Could it be that they have come to take revenge? He is Dark Guild's 6-pillar demon, Sawani, and he is a level 1-star demon sovereign. Another one says it's not a problem, explaining that the purple demon Thuzad will greet them. She is another 6-pillar demon, Ruth Bader. She is a level 2-star demon ancestor. Dark Guild's another 6-pillar demon. Experiment number 24 asks another 6-pillar if he wants to fight with the intruder, William Elizabeth. He is told to shut up. Dark Guild's vice president, Dago Cthulhu, tells everyone that no matter who it is, even if it is the Swordmaster himself, if he dares to come, he will never return. The man who is supporting the large egg is the Dark Guild president, and his name is Whis Malfoy. He was the prince of the human king who swore his loyalty to Elizabeth at the beginning of the story. Though he is still alive, he tells everyone that at first, he was worried about the missing materials. But he didn't expect them to be delivered to his doorstep out of nowhere. On the other side, Amelia has already defeated the purple demon. The purple demon is really confused, thinking, how is this possible? His abyss magic is all useless, and even his magic tools have no effect on the intruder. He realizes that this isn't good. Her power is endless. He thinks it's best to use teleportation magic to go back to the hall and convey information to the rest. But before he uses his teleportation magic, Amelia uses her dragon's claw and crushes him with her hand. By using this skill, she can be in her human form and can use any part of her dragon body at will. Only purple demon blood and some body parts remain after Amelia uses her dragon hand to crush him. In the next moment, thousands of demons come toward Amelia. They are great apostles. They are a little scared, thinking about how the purple demon was actually defeated by a mere child. But they are more happy, thinking there will be 2 vacant seats for a pillar demon now. They were thinking that since Amelia and the purple demon had a difficult battle, she should be definitely seriously injured. They ask everyone to take this opportunity. Another great apostle asks all the apostles to go, just overwhelm her with numbers and kill her. But Amelia does not give a thought about them. She just sees them as another pile of trash. She uses the Golden Dragon King roar and kills all the demons in just one attack. Her roar's sound was so strong that all of the great apostles' heads start to hurt like crazy and blast. They die, and a blood rain starts in that place. While walking in that rain, Amelia says all done. After killing them, Amelia opens her wings and flies and goes to the castle to find out about the Dark Guild. But before she enters the castle, the door demon stops her, saying if she wishes to enter, she must answer his questions. The cost of answering wrong is her life. So, he starts asking her questions, but before he completes his words, Amelia kicks the demon door and breaks him into multiple pieces. After destroying the demon door, she enters the main hall. The first thing she saw after entering was Malfoy. Beside Malfoy, remaining members of the 6 Pillars were standing. After seeing Wis Malfoy, Amelia says to him that he has turned it into something ugly. After hearing this, Malfoy starts laughing, saying 5,000 years have passed, and he became old now. He is really happy after meeting Amelia after such a long time. But before he completes his words, Amelia kills him with her power. His body explodes instantly. After seeing this, everyone gets really surprised, wondering what just happened. One of them asks if Amelia thinks her attack worked. After killing Wis Malfoy, Amelia thinks she's done and suggests calling it a day and going to Master Elizabeth. But suddenly Malfoy's body starts regenerating. He said, as expected of Lady Amelia, she's gotten even stronger. However, he is really curious and asks Amelia why she suddenly awakened from his deep slumber. He asks if she perhaps found Master Elizabeth. Amelia gets really surprised, thinking about what just happened. How is he still alive? But before she says something, the 6-Pillar Vice President attacks Amelia with his taboo tentacles. He ties Amelia with his tentacles so she can't move. He tells Amelia that as long as he defeats her, the Demon Queen Elizabeth's mount, Golden Dragon King, the position of the Lord of Demons will be his. He laughs, saying that now Amelia's magic power and the movement of her limbs are sealed inside the Dark Sea. No matter how strong she is, she can't escape his grasp. Amelia laughs and asks him, who wants to escape? What do you mean? Amelia starts chewing his tentacles, but he tells her that it's a pointless struggle. However, Amelia doesn't give a thought about him and continues eating. But his tentacles are really large. When they all come out of the ground, he tells Amelia that she is a stupid girl, asking if she wants to eat him. Does she know how large his body is? She shouldn't overestimate herself. But he underestimated Amelia. Amelia starts eating his whole body, and the octopus demon gets really scared. He asks Malfoy to save him, but before they help, Amelia already finishes eating him. Since waking up, she hadn't eaten anything, and thought that this would be enough to fill her stomach. Suddenly, one of the 6 Pillars says to Amelia that she surrenders. She had to join them against her will. She comes close to Amelia and uses her seductive kiss on Amelia, thinking if attacking doesn't work, this will. She asks Amelia from now on. She is her prisoner. However, her seductive kiss doesn't work on Amelia. Amelia releases some of her power and sends her flying to the other side. She doesn't give a thought about her. She is still thinking about the octopus she ate before. Because the silly octopus still wants to multiply in her stomach, she says to the octopus that she will digest him in one go. Other 6-Pillar members get really surprised, thinking not only did Amelia kill the vice president, but she also injured her father. He thinks Amelia is interesting. So he uses his Demon King skill, Liberation, but Amelia sends her flying with just one punch. He comes back, and with one other 6-Pillar member, he attacks Amelia, but she killed both of them with her one attack. After killing the remaining 6-Pillar, Amelia asks Malfoy if he is thinking of replacing Elizabeth by bringing this trash with him. He is not even qualified to be her opponent right now. Malfoy congratulates Amelia for being promoted to Demon King when he saw her power. He said he is so envious. As a human, he doesn't have a long enough lifespan to break through. Amelia interrupts him, saying that's enough with the nonsense, and asks him if he is going to commit suicide, or if he still thinks he can beat her. Malfoy starts laughing, saying how could he, Wis Malfoy, dare to be her opponent. But suddenly, the egg behind Wis Malfoy starts revealing. The thing inside that big bubble looks like Elizabeth. Malfoy says that if they add her, the matter would be different. After seeing Elizabeth's clone, Amelia gets really surprised, thinking about what he just did. She is really angry. Miss Malfoy starts laughing loudly, saying with the help of the Elizabeth clone, he will defeat Amelia. 1 month later, robot dog licking his censored body parts. Lin is working on his farm, digging a hole and sowing some fruit seeds. He gives them some water, and in the next moment, a tree grows with many types of fruits. Lin harvests all the fruits from the tree and starts traveling back to his home with his robot dog. But in the middle on the roof, he suddenly stops. He is lost in thought. But when the robot dog barks at him, then he realizes and follows him back. After coming back home, he starts preparing some firewood for cooking, but he is still lost in thought. Even while cooking, he is not his usual self. Elizabeth, who only focuses on eating, also notices Lin like that. She doesn't know what the hell is going on with him. In the night, Lin can't sleep because of this. Suddenly he sits on the bed and says that he has decided he will ask Elizabeth about the world. In the next morning, he apologizes to Elizabeth for bothering her so early. He makes today's breakfast and asks Elizabeth to please enjoy. Elizabeth asks him if he has anything to say. Just say it because she hates beating around the bush. After hearing this, Lin explains that after this year of getting along with each other, Elizabeth should already know that he is no threat to her and that the hero and demon queen can coexist. So, he thinks it's time for Elizabeth to get out of here and take control of the world again. But Elizabeth is really confused, thinking about what Lin wants to say. Leping explains that he originally thought he could live peacefully by hiding here in the novice village. However, he didn't expect that what the system said about the encounter of the hero and the demon queen being inevitable would be true. He didn't go out, but Elizabeth came to his door. As a result, the novice village's barrier was damaged, and 500 years passed outside, resulting in the current chaos. Without Elizabeth ruling the world, some dark guilds have appeared. And what happened to Uncle Boss and Annie is just a tiny part of the chaos in the outside world. After hearing this, Elizabeth is really confused and asks him why he cares if it's chaotic or not, as it doesn't affect them. But according to the system, if Lin and Elizabeth become enemies, the world becomes peaceful. However, if they both become friends, then the world is in chaos. Lin explains that he was intertwined during this period because of the barrier's disappearance. Without Elizabeth, it would have been difficult for him to continue living like this. If he didn't know what was going on outside, he could certainly continue his life here without any problems. But after witnessing it, he can no longer stay out of it simply because he doesn't want to be a hero or doesn't want to save people from suffering. However, Elizabeth misunderstands everything, thinking Lin is just saying he can't live without her. Lin asks Elizabeth to please go and rule the world again. Although he is an incompetent hero, he can't continue to be selfish. He was thinking that if this place is wiped out by monsters, the worst he can do is just go to the city to work. After finishing his dinner, Elizabeth says to Lin that if he wants her to solve the problems of the outside world, she smiles and says that it's just a small issue to her. After hearing this, Lin gets really happy and asks Elizabeth if she agrees. He will help her pack her things now. But Elizabeth replies that she is not interested in the outside world, but there are 2 ways to solve this. Elizabeth misunderstands, thinking that Lin is looking for an excuse to kick her out. Lin asks about the solutions and what they are. She explains that the first is the most direct one. She will go out and cast a world-destroying magic spell to completely solve the issue. She asks Lin if that will work, but Leping disagrees, saying that it definitely won't work. Elizabeth told that the second solution is to find a suitable person to rule the world, and Elizabeth can teach them from the shadows. Hearing this line doesn't understand and asks, what does she mean by a suitable person, and who should it be? Elizabeth smiles after hearing Lin's words, and says that he knows already. Aside from her, only he is qualified for this. Leping gets really shocked after hearing what Elizabeth just said, and asks her if she really wants him to rule the world. Lin was in the open with his legendary sword, asking why did it suddenly turn into this. However, Elizabeth tells Lin to be vigilant and begin his swordsmanship training. Lin apologized to her and starts swinging his sword. On the other side, Elizabeth is smiling as she have misunderstand Lin again. She start imagining, thinking Lin wants to play games with her, the Demon Queen, but he is too young for that. It's undeniable that in terms of power, Lin is a little bit better than her. But when it comes to psychology and knowledge, Lin is no match for her. But when Lee told Elizabeth to leave this morning, she felt so unhappy and almost let it happen. But then he said the words that were in his heart, that he can't live without Elizabeth. and she completely saw through him. However, Elizabeth still thinks that Lin knows very well that with their power, destroying or ruling the world is a matter of a single thought. It bears no meaning. So the best they can do is to leave it alone to develop and observe what is happening in their spare time. As for the Dark Guild, it has already been taken care of by Amelia, so there is no need to worry about it. Elizabeth starts blessing, thinking that Lin has been wandering in thought every day. So he decided to bring her out early this morning to talk nonsense about how he wants her to leave and rule the world. Just to tell you everything she have thought of is just her imagination, Elizabeth misunderstands, thinking that Lee is trying to find an excuse to make her pay attention. It's obvious that after a year of getting along with one another, Lee has fallen in love with Elizabeth. This is what Elizabeth is thinking, but on the other side, Lin, who doesn't know anything, is still practicing his swordsmanship, thinking if it's true that one can master their sword by swinging it 1,000 times a day. While doing it, he is getting really confused, that how can that be so simple? Elizabeth was thinking that Lin is the pinnacle of strength and still enjoys being beaten by another. She is the only one in the world who is capable of controlling him because he is a hero with wicked interests. Even if she is not interested in such a boring matter as falling in love, it is different when it comes to Lin. He has the highest power of creation and production, and she has the best swordsmanship and magic. She even start imagining that what kind of a child would the two of them be able to create. She thought that, to create the strongest child to break the limits of this realm is Lin's true aim. However, after thinking about this, she starts laughing, thinking that she will not agree so easily. She will let Lin practice his bad swordsmanship first. He needs to get stronger for that kid in the future. Lin, after seeing Elizabeth acting like that, gets really confused, wondering what is Elizabeth thinking about. Is she really planning to teach him swordsmanship and magic so he can destroy the Dark Guild? But when Lin was swinging his sword, suddenly a smoke surrounds the legendary sword. And in the next moment, the legendary sword turns into a 12-year-old kid. For a second, both Lin and that kid just looked at each other. Then Lin screamed in shock, asking, why did the holy sword turn into a kid? The holy sword, who has now turned into a kid, gets really angry at Lin, asking who he is calling a kid. He introducing himself as Majestic, Holy Sword Sword Spirit, Alpha. Elizabeth, after seeing Alpha, asks Lin what's going on. But after seeing Elizabeth, Holy Sword Alpha get annoyed. It's like he was disgusted after seeing the Demon Queen Elizabeth. He rushes toward her, thinking he will kill Elizabeth today. But before he can attack Elizabeth, she kicks him really hard and sends him flying across to the other side. When Holy Sword Alpha fall on the ground, she asks him to sit down and talk. Holy Sword Alpha, after being beaten by Elizabeth, sits quietly in front of her. Lin apologized to Holy Sword Alpha, explaining that he didn't know Holy Sword was conscious even after using it for so long. With a proud expression, Holy Sword Alpha said, "Course, Lin. You didn't know, I appear at the critical moment of the hero fighting the Demon Queen." Holy Sword Alpha grabbed Lin because he is really angry after finding out that Leping is using him to chop firewood all year. He actually used the Majestic Holy Sword to chop firewood. While crying, he asks Lin if he knows how he spent that year. Lin asks Holy Sword Alpha to calm down as he was trying to hit Lin. But Holy Sword Alpha doesn't listen to him, because Lin actually changed the script and became friends with Demon Queen Elizabeth, and he even turned him the Holy Sword into a wood chopping knife. He says that Lin is a disgusting man, and he doesn't deserve to be a hero at all. Elizabeth, in angry expression, asks Holy Sword Alpha if he wants to kill her. Holy Sword Alpha replies saying no, explaining that it's all because of the silly system settings, and now it's invalid. He told Elizabeth that considering the circumstances, Elizabeth would actually be his savior. But Elizabeth doesn't care, and asks Holy Sword Alpha to help Lin rule the world. After hearing this, Holy Sword Alpha gets really confused and asks, what are they talking about? Lin explains that Elizabeth means they should save it. Holy Sword Alpha is still confused and asks Lin what he is talking about. Lin explains to him that although Lin has been idle for a long time, he decided to take the responsibility as the hero. He will practice, and then go save the world. Holy Sword Alpha asks Lin if he doesn't know where his talents lie. What he means is that Lin just used Holy Sword Alpha to practice his sword swings 100 times and accumulated experience equal to fighting a Demon King level enemy and awakening him. However, Lin misunderstands himself, saying that he knows he has no talent, but with two great coaches, Holy Sword Alpha and Elizabeth, he believes he can do it. Holy Sword Alpha is really confused and asks Lin what he is talking about. He was about to tell Lin that he is the world's strongest swordmaster. But before he can say this, Elizabeth silences him with her magic. Then she asks Lin to sit down first, as she has something to explain to the Holy Sword Alpha. Hearing that Alpha try to run away, but Elizabeth uses her magic hand and gets the Holy Sword Alpha behind the tree. There, she beat the hell out of him. Some moments later, Holy Sword Alpha comes out and was heavily injured. He goes to Lin and said that no matter what, he will cooperate with Lin. Elizabeth tells Lin that without further ado, with only swordsmanship being allowed, they should start venturing outside. The scene shifted to a bustling town square of Titano City, alive with the chatter of townsfolk. A girl announced that the Grey Wolf Guild is looking for recruits. The salary is favorable. The ones who are considering a job change can look at this flyer. The town's air was rich with the scent of street food, the best choice for a snack when going to watch the guild competition. Titano Town is in Sword Saint Guild's area of influence. Lin and Elizabeth also come to this town to watch the guild competition. While walking, Elizabeth told Lin that her magic senses are telling her that this town is to hold a large-scale event, and where there are so many people have gathered, they can get a lot of information. Lin understands that the first step to ruling the world is the gathering of intelligence. However, Holy Sword Alpha doesn't look happy. He asks Lin if he wants him to accompany them to waste his time in such a place. Hearing this, Elizabeth turns her head toward Holy Sword Alpha, and in anger asks him if he wants her to break him in two. Seeing Elizabeth like angry this, Holy Sword Alpha gets scared and asks Lin to call him if he needs him. After saying this, he turns into a sword again. Suddenly, Lin notices a flyer lying on the ground. He says, "Elizabeth, these flyers are everywhere. What is this event that is being held?" Looking carefully, Lin notices that this is a guild competition flyer. He asks Elizabeth if she knew about this. Elizabeth explains that it's a competition where the guilds send their representatives to fight. But suddenly, they heard a really loud sound. This is the announcement sound for participants to enter, and who wants to bet with them. After hearing this sound, people start heading toward the arena where the guild competition is going to be held. Some people ask everyone to bet on the Sword Saint Guild. They will 100% win. But some say that the elves have also sent people this time. Also, there is that card guild that became famous recently. Lin grabbed Elizabeth's hand, suggesting they watch the spectacle too. Moments later, upon reaching the arena, Lin was amazed by arena's immense beauty and size. However, their entry was halted by a yellow monster who informed them that his magic ticket inspector didn't detect their tickets. Lin, turning to Elizabeth, confidently offered to handle the situation. He inquired to the yellow monster that as advertised on the flyer, tickets could still be purchased for 10 gold coins. Lin took out his gold coins pouch and asked if he can buy 2. That yellow monster confirmed, but revealed that he had monopolized the remaining tickets and is now selling them for 200 gold coins. Lin was shocked by this blatant profiteering, saying, "There are such thieves in this world too." Elizabeth, clearly displeased, used her mind control magic on the monster. That yellow monster get hypnotized by Elizabeth. His attitude instantly changed, becoming obsequious towards Lin. He offered them 2 VIP room tickets, asking Lin, please accept it, saying it is a great honor to serve both of them. He then happily ushered them to the VIP room. When Lin and Elizabeth enters the VIP room, Lin get awestruck by the luxuriousness of the VIP room and couldn't believe his eyes. However, they weren't the only ones with VIP access. Several important figures from various guilds were present, including spellwriter Tagore Severus, unaffiliated, drunk blacksmith Brian, Dwarf Kingdom, Orange Sword, Luna Saugus, Sword Saint Guild, and her sister Anna Saugus, Purple Sword, Sword Saint Guild. Anna, spotting Lin and Elizabeth, and asked Luna to inquire if they were on the invitation list. After seating on their seats, Lin told Elizabeth that this first glimpse of the grand arena made him a bit nervous, but Elizabeth remained nonchalant and requested snacks from him. Anna advised Luna to keep an eye on them, speculating they might be from a guild whose president had aided them in the past. The competition finally began. The host, Gob the Goblin, welcomed everyone and requested a warm reception for the players. He then announced the final round of the guild competition and introduced the 4 finalists. Ching, the genius swordsman from the Sword Saint Guild. Gaola, the valiant general from the Giant Bear Guild. Travis, the handsome fellow from the Elf Guild. And Yi, the special guest representing the Card Guild. The crowd roared in anticipation as the host declared, "Let the games begin." After all 4 contestants enter the arena, Travis from the Elf Guild carefully examines everyone, thinking that this muscular-looking fool from the Giant Bear Guild looks way too simple-minded. He's probably cannon fodder. As for the Card Guild, which was recently established, the only reason they are qualified to join this competition is because they helped the Sword Saint Guild in killing the invading Six-Pillar demons. They are just a second-rate guild affiliated with the Sword Saint Guild, and there is only their president representing them. This Yi is no threat to him. So, in this competition, the only one who poses a threat to him is the Sword Saint Guild's Blue Sword. However, after this, Gaola from the Giant Bear Guild starts running toward Blue Sword to attack him. But he is not the only one who is attacking. Travis jumps into the air and prepares his arrow to attack, thinking what a barbaric and primitive person Gaola from the Giant Bear Guild is. So he shoots 3 arrows at the same time to everyone, but everyone manages to avoid his arrows. However, Gaola from the Giant Bear Guild catches Travis's arrow and says to him, "These sissies' words are so rude. He will be the first I kill." He crushes the arrow that he caught and throws it into the ground. However, suddenly, the arrow he threw into the ground starts growing, and in just a few seconds, those arrows transform into a wooden cage and capture everyone. Travis, after locking up Gaola in a cage, says, "Such an uncultured beast like him should be locked up in a cage." However, Gaola, who is really big, says to Travis, he can't stop him with just these rotten roots of his. He will crush them all, so he uses his fierce raw power, thinking he can get out from this cage with his fierce ram. However, when he tries to escape, the grass roots come to life and capture him. After seeing he is really confused and doesn't know what's happening, Travis starts laughing, saying, "These are the grass roots of the gum tree. Upon impact, they shrink, and an extremely sticky fluid comes out. You muscle brain." Meanwhile, Blue Sword effortlessly sliced through the roots with his sword, emerging from the cage unscathed. His flawless swordsmanship surprised both the masked man and Travis, particularly Travis, who grew frustrated thinking this Blue Sword is so fast the roots couldn't even touch him. Emerging from the cage, Blue Sword apologized to Travis for destroying his plant. To his surprise, Travis declared it didn't matter. He could repay the debt with his life. Defeating a formidable opponent like Blue Sword would be exhilarating. He readied his bow, unleashing his violent butterfly dance technique, a flurry of 100 arrows. Undeterred, Blue Sword muttered, "No fear, no doubt, no surprises, no confusion," entering his selfless state. He readied his sword and executed the bluebird technique, slicing through not only Travis's butterfly dance, but also severing his right hand without him even noticing. Confused and bewildered, Travis looked at Blue Sword, who calmly stated, "You've lost." Travis conceded, acknowledging Blue Sword's title as the Sword Saint Guild's genius. However, he reminded him that he, too, was a genius. An Elf Guild genius. Suddenly, green butterflies surrounded Blue Sword. Before he could react, Travis unleashed his butterfly explosion. There was a huge explosion, but fortunately, Blue Sword lost his sword, but he survived the attack. However, after seeing Blue Sword is still alive, Travis retrieves something from his mouth and throws it into the ground. Suddenly, a really big flower emerges from the ground. This flower is Healing Lily, capable of healing any wound. Travis uses it to heal his arm. After seeing that, he acknowledges that the Sword Saint Guild is extremely powerful, but its attack patterns are too simple. This is its flaw. With the blessing of the sacred tree, the elves are the most powerful of all. However, before he can say something more, Gaola from the Giant Bear Guild attacks him from behind and kills him. Gaola starts laughing, saying, "As he said, the first one to die will be Travis. Travis died a miserable death." Gaola said show-offs are the most annoying type. After that, he turns his head toward Blue Sword. However, Blue Sword gets really surprised after seeing him. This aura he's giving off is... But before he can say something, the audience starts cheering for Gaola, asking for more, and urging him to smash Blue Sword to death. Gaola's revenge instantly fires up the audience. The first one to leave the competition is the handsome Travis of the Elf Guild. But everyone is really curious. How did Gaola break away? However, this is not important. Now what matters is, can the injured Blue Sword withstand Gaola's attack? So, Blue Sword lifts his right hand into the air and calls his sword. In the next moment, his sword comes back to him. After he carefully looks at Gaola, he gets a rough idea that Gaola used his sweat as lubrication to struggle free from the secret of the roots. Fortunately, Blue Sword used his sword in time to prevent bigger damage, so the impact was minimal. Gaola's body starts growing, and purple smoke surrounds him. He says to Blue Sword that power is everything, and he will crush him in just seconds. He jumps into the air and uses 70% of his muscle power to attack Blue Sword. Blue Sword dodges and avoids his attack, then counterattacks him with his flashing cold slash, sending him back. Unfortunately, he can't deal any damage to Gaola's body. Gaola starts laughing after seeing Blue Sword can only scratch him. On the other side, Blue Sword gets really surprised after seeing his sword got damaged. However, before Blue Sword can think anything, Gaola attacks him and uses 80% of his muscle power this time. Unfortunately, Blue Sword barely stops his attack using his sword, but he can't completely stop it and rolls into the ground. After finding out that he can't use his sword anymore, he throws his sword into the ground and starts fighting Gaola hand to hand. Gaola starts attacking Blue Sword again, but this time he uses 90% of his muscle power, thinking he will kill Blue Sword this time. However, Blue Sword dodges Gaola's every attack. On the other side, Lin is really excited after seeing their fights. He asks Elizabeth who she thinks will win in the end. Elizabeth doesn't say anything. Anna, the red-haired girl, is really surprised because Blue Sword's sword is a B-ranked weapon forged by the dwarves, but it was broken by a simple punch. Luna, the yellow-haired girl, asks her sister if they should stop it. After all, their Sword Saint Guild can't lose more face. But the red-haired girl is really confused, thinking when did the Giant Bear Guild's people become so strong? But she suddenly remembers, thinking could it be the Dark Guild? In the previous episode, Leping and Elizabeth enjoy the fight between Blue Sword and Gaola. However, the red-haired girl Anna is really shocked after seeing Gaola break Blue Sword's B-rank weapon with just one punch. On the other side, the yellow-haired man asks one of the big-shot elders, Barry from the Sword Saint Guild, if he needs him to stop the fight between Blue Sword and Gaola. His name is Grey Sword Ash, and he is from the Sword Saint Guild. However, Elder Sword Barry from the Sword Saint Guild disagrees, explaining that the two of them are more than enough to handle Gaola, and he asks Elder Bears what he thinks. Elder Bears replies that he doesn't know. He will think about it if the situation gets out of hand. He is the Card Guild president and a former member of the Sword Saint Guild, and he is a 4-star demon sect realm. His name is Bose, the old man we saw at the beginning of this manhwa. He received card skills from Leping, became powerful, and created his own guild. Grey Sword thinks that Senior Bears is indeed someone who deeply hates the Dark Guild. Just hearing about becoming an apostle makes him so angry that he can hardly hold back and even trembles all over. Grey Sword misunderstands everything. Mr. Bears doesn't tremble in anger because Gaola became the apostle of the Dark Guild, but he trembles in fear. After seeing Leping and Elizabeth, he can't believe his eyes, thinking, how could it be possible? How did those two get here? On the other hand, Leping asks Elizabeth after seeing the fight between Blue Sword and Gaola if they don't meet their expectations. What do you think we should do with them? Elizabeth replies without any second thought, saying if they don't meet their expectations, then they will kill them all without wasting any time. Mr. Bears, after hearing the conversation between Leping and Elizabeth, gets more shocked, thinking, that must be it. Mr. Leping is here to check whether I have used his card and wheat tea on the right path. In order to live up to Mr. Leping's gift, fortunately, after I mastered the basic abilities, I actively hunted down the evil apostles and devoted myself to maintaining the peace of the heroes' continent. However, can these two of them really take this insignificant achievement seriously? However, Gaola, after becoming an apostle of the Dark Guild, gets really powerful, saying Blue Sword is a little bug in front of him, and he will slap him to death. Blue Sword is really surprised after seeing Gaola's power, and he doesn't have any other choice. He has to use his secret technique. But he is really nervous because he doesn't know if he can control it now. However, he can't doubt himself. He remembers his master's teachings. If you want to enter a state of selflessness, you must abandon distracting thoughts. Before Blue Sword can execute his technique, Gaola uses his overwhelming strength to attack the ground and starts playing with the ground just like rubber. He uses this to attack Blue Sword, who is really shocked after seeing this. However, before Blue Sword could react, Gaola started attacking him, sending Blue Sword into the air. Gaola planned to capture him with his ground-controlling technique by creating walls around him. Blue Sword, confused and unable to react, found himself captured in a stone cage before he could do anything. Gaola, after capturing Blue Sword, explained that the Giant Bear Guild doesn't just specialize in physical enhancement, but also excels in earth magic, comparable to high-level magician guilds. He started laughing at Blue Sword's predicament. Suddenly, Gaola noticed a blue energy emanating from the stone cage, prompting him to quickly retreat. Upon closer inspection, he realized that his hand was already cut off. Confused and trembling in fear, he wondered what had just happened. Blue Sword utilized his magic sword energy to cut the stone cage into tiny pieces, showcasing his power. However, he is still murmuring his teacher's words about not being surprised or confused to reach a state of selflessness. Blue Sword demonstrated exceptional skill. Gaola, enraged and disregarding Blue Sword's teachings, only wanted to kill him, declaring that he would kill him today no matter what. Despite the threat, Blue Sword remained undeterred, using his magic sword energy to cut Gaola's right leg. Gaola started crying in pain after Blue Sword's decisive move. After cutting his leg, Blue Sword offered Gaola one last chance to surrender. Gaola, still unwilling to give up, vowed to kill Blue Sword today. Gaola starts remembering his master's advice about using gears to enhance strength for the competition and avoiding forbidden drugs unless necessary. He expressed surprise at the powerful skills of the people from the Sword Saint Guild, thinking, "Should I use the power of forbidden drugs? If I can't bear it, I will suffer backlash." However, Blue Sword points his sword towards Gaola, saying, "While you are conscious, voluntarily give up the power of the Dark Guild, and I can spare your life." But Gaola doesn't want to give up without a fight, so he uses the power of forbidden drugs. He plans to transform into a complete Demon King and kill Blue Sword and all the members of the Sword Saint Guild. However, while still contemplating this, Blue Sword uses his magic sword energy and cuts Gaola's head without any second thought. The masked girl who is still trapped in the cage is thinking, can she really do it? Can she really win this fight? She is not confident in herself, contemplating the idea of surrendering. She is Elif, Mr. Bose's daughter. We show them the beginning of the Manhwa when Leping's robot dog saves them from the Dark Guild. In the Card Guild, Elif is meditating and training with her card, which she received from Leping. She drinks barley tea and breaks through from a 5-star demon spirit to a 1-star great demon spirit. After the breakthrough, she thinks, meditation and entering this space use up a lot of mental power. Fortunately, this magic barley tea helps calm down my thoughts and prevents me from losing myself in that universe of poker. It keeps me in complete harmony. The effects are remarkable. I was able to break through to the great demon spirit realm in a short time despite my mediocre aptitude. While she is still thinking about this, she suddenly hears a door opening sound. The one who is on the is Mr. Boss. He comes back home after completing his work. Elif is really happy after seeing her dad, saying, "Dad, you're finally back." But she is really curious about the meeting between the Sword Saint Guild and her dad. She asks what happened with the Sword Saint Guild and if he's okay. Mr. Bose explains, "The crisis of the Dark Guild's invasion has been resolved, but the internal issues of the Sword Saint Guild are much more serious than I anticipated. I didn't see the Swordmaster personally this time." After hearing this, Elif asks Mr. Boss, what should they do now? Without the recognition of the Sword Saint Guild, they won't be able to develop this region and recruit members to elevate Mr. Leping's Card Guild. However, Mr. Boss replies, "Even if I didn't see the Swordmaster, I helped them repel the Dark Guild, and I got something unexpected." Mr. Boss opens the bag he is carrying and shows them to Elif. After seeing them, Elif instantly recognizes them, saying, "They are the Dark Gears of Great Apostles?" However, she is really surprised after seeing so many of them. She explains that she is now at the Great Demon Spirit level, so she should be able to purify them in one day. But she is really confused and asks Mr. Boss if these are the unexpected gains he's talking about. Mr. Boss says no and shows the invitation card to Elif, explaining that this is what he's talking about. The Sword Saint Guild gave us a direct qualification for the guild competition finals. Elif is really surprised after seeing the guild competition card. Mr. Boss reassures Elif, saying, "You don't have to worry. As long as you participate and win, our card guild will be recognized." However, Elif is really nervous after hearing Mr. Boss's words. She explains that she is not good at all. The participants in the past have all been geniuses from many guilds, with strength at least at the Demon Ancestor level. She has just been promoted to the Great Demon Spirit level. She is afraid that not only will she not be able to represent them well, but they will lose face too. It feels like they are deliberately making things difficult for them. However, Mr. Boss doesn't care about this. He says to Elif, "It doesn't matter if you win or lose. Having more confidence and determination is the most important thing. We are not the same as before. When the time comes, your father will bring you Mr. Leping's treasure deck, and this level gap will make no difference." In the present, Elif, who is still thinking about her father's words, realizes that her father told her to bring in Mr. Leping's cards. However, with her strength, she can use no more than 6 at a time. The rest of the battle has to be done with replica cards only, which will greatly decrease her attack strength. But, in order to promote Mr. Leping properly, she can't back down. Determination is the most important. After saying this, she gets his cards from his pocket and uses the card slash to free herself from the cage. After that, she slowly starts approaching Blue Sword. However, as she approaches Blue Sword, it is revealed that Gaula is still alive after his head was cut off. Blue Sword gets really impressed after seeing Elif's power, explaining, "It was a good strategy to hide your power and only take action at the end." However, he doesn't consider Elif his opponent by any means and asks her to admit defeat now, saying that their guild owes her a favor. He doesn't wish to hurt her. This is his final warning. However, before he completes his words, Elif attacks him with her card skill. After seeing Elif's card skill, the Dark Guild president is really surprised. He asks, "What is this weapon? I've never seen a weapon like this." Elif, without wasting any time, slashes his cards and uses the poker flying sword technique to attack Blue Sword. However, Blue Sword figures out Elif's strategy, explaining, "She just wants to distract me with this fancy attack. The real goal is to hit me with another move." However, Blue Sword, without wasting any time, jumps towards Elif to attack her. He doesn't want to give Elif any chance for a counterattack. Elif gets really shocked and realizes that Blue Sword already saw through his plan. Luckily, she dodges Blue Sword's attack in the right time. Without wasting any time, she uses her card slash to attack Blue Sword as many times as she can. However, Elif's attacks don't work on Blue Sword. He jumps into the air and attacks Elif. Nevertheless, Elif dodges Blue Sword's attack and counters with her card slash skill. Blue Sword uses his sword chi to dodge Elif's attack, but Elif uses her card lock to stop Blue Sword from attacking. The audience is really excited after seeing the fight between Blue Sword and Elif. They think the Card Guild's fighting style is quite unique. Blue Sword is surrounded by cards, and they wonder what he will do to resolve this. Elif has already locked Blue Sword's skills with her card lock skill. After seeing this, Blue Sword asks Elif, "Do you consume my sword chi with this power?" However, he doesn't care, saying, "It's pointless. If you force me to take this seriously, you have to be ready to be killed." Elif, after hearing this, replies, "Of course, she knows the card lock can't restrain him for long, but it is enough to buy her time for the card slash to be complete. And she got the most powerful spades." So she releases her cards to prepare a powerful move. In the next moment, the cards transform into a spades dragon. After seeing this, the people watching the fight between Blue Sword and Elif get really shocked and ask, "What's that? She has so many attacks, first a lock and now a summon too?" One of them says, "This is worth recording and investigating." The Dark Guild president is really surprised after seeing Leping's card's power, thinking, "Through different combinations, many fighting methods are being displayed. Which masterful craftsman made these cards?" Leping gets really surprised after seeing that people in this world also know how to play cards. He asks Elizabeth to look. It turns out that people outside also know how to play cards and can use them to fight. Meanwhile, Elif uses his Spades Dragon skill and attacks Blue Sword. After seeing this powerful move, Blue Sword uses his maximum output of sword energy to create a big blue bird and uses it to counterattack Elif's Spades Dragon. Blue Sword's attack with the blue bird is powerful, destroying Elif's Spades Dragon without any problem and causing some harm to Elif. Luckily, Elif creates a shield with her cards on time and barely defends herself. She thinks Blue Sword is really strong, and as a 3-star demon spirit, it is still difficult for her to make up for the gap in level using only replica cards. To win, she must use treasure cards. But she is nervous about using them because if she can't control the power well, she might end up harming him. Blue Sword is really impressed with Elif because she is forcing him to use his full power. He jumps into the air to attack Elif. However, Elif creates a shield with her cards to defend herself. Unfortunately, it is not enough to stop Blue Sword's attack, and he sends Elif flying across to another corner. Blue Sword approaches Elif, saying it's over, and she lost. Elif admits defeat, thinking, forget it. There's no need to continue. Just fighting to this level is enough. Suddenly something hits Blue Sword on the head from behind. Blue Sword, looking in pain, doesn't know what just happened and wonders, what's this? His eyes start changing. Elif also gets shocked after seeing this. The one who attacked Blue Sword is Gyola's head. He is controlling Blue Sword's body. However, he is not Gyola. He is a great apostle who was in Gyola's body. After Gyola's death, he finally hatched. After that, he wants to control Blue Sword's body, as he really likes Blue Sword's body. He can use the sword energy in this body. Gob the Goblin explains to the audience about the current situation, saying Gyola's head suddenly jumped up and took control of Qing's body. The scene seemed a bit out of control. The Great Apostle starts attacking the audience, but shield barriers are protecting everyone. However, people start to run as the protective shield is about to burst. Everyone is really shocked after seeing that the guy from the Sword Saint Guild had turned into an apostle. Red-haired girl Anna is also shocked after seeing that Blue Sword turned into a Dark Guild apostle. Yellow-haired girl asks Sister Anna what they should do now. The man who is smoking is also really surprised by this unexpected show. Leping is also really surprised. This isn't what they expected. He asks Elizabeth if they are going to step in and help. Elizabeth replies saying no, explaining that if Leping wants to rule the world, he must learn to adapt to such small scenes of temporary changes. Otherwise, how will he be able to manage such a big world in the future? Elizabeth asks Leping to just wait and see what happens first. Leping doesn't say anything and agrees with Elizabeth. Mr. Bose, who is thinking, realizes that both Elizabeth and Leping knew about the Apostles' invasion. They planned to see if Elif and he could settle this matter properly. He prays that Elif must perform well and satisfy Mr. Leping and Demon Queen Elizabeth. Meanwhile, the Sword Saint Guild president is thinking that Mr. Boss is getting anxious. If he steps in to save his daughter, it proves that his guild is not strong enough to deal with the Dark Guild. Now the Sword Saint Guild is recruiting new people, and they want Mr. Boss to come back and become the new elder in the Sword Saint Guild. The Great Apostle really likes Blue Sword's body, saying it's great. He is very satisfied with this body. Elif is really surprised after seeing the Dark Guild. The Great Apostle is laughing at Elif, asking what the little bastard wants to do. Elif gets her treasure card, saying if the opponent is the Dark Guild, then she doesn't need to worry so much. Elif's body starts glowing, a huge amount of magic energy surrounding her. The Great Apostle gets really scared after seeing the unknown power coming from Elif, thinking it's better to kill her immediately. He uses Blue Sword's sword energy and attacks Elif. However, Elif stops his attack. She uses her card skill and creates a sacred guardian to protect her. Leping gets really surprised after seeing Elif's face, thinking, why does this feel familiar? Meanwhile, the Dwarf Guild president is really shocked after seeing Elif's card power, thinking, what's this? Compared to the cards just now, these feel even more incredible. The man with one eyeglasses is also really shocked. He has never seen an attack like this, thinking, this summoned phantom, is this the 13 holy warriors that is recorded in the books? The Sword Saint Guild president asks Mr. Boss if this is the trick he used to defeat the 6 pillar demons. Mr. Boss replies that he used a 9-card formation before, and his daughter is using only a 5-card formation. The attacks are the same but different in magical power. Mr. Boss hopes that it is enough to defeat the Dark Guild Apostle. Elif throws her card toward the Great Apostle, asking him to leave Blue Sword's body. Unfortunately, the Great Apostle dodges Elif's attack without any problem. He gets really scared after seeing the power of these cards, thinking, how come these ordinary cards have so much power? He is really impressed with Elif's power, but he doesn't want to lose his life. So, he jumps into the air, saying to Elif, you're amazing. I will come back to you after I get to know this body. I will be running away for now. Unfortunately, Elif uses her card and summons her shield guardian, commanding it to stop the Great Apostle. Then, she throws the Great Apostle to another shield guardian, and the guardians play with the Great Apostle like volleyball. The Great Apostle is really confused, not knowing what is going on, thinking he was just born and can't die here. So, he uses his strongest move, Fierce Sword. However, before he can attack Elif, she uses her guardian and traps the Great Apostle into a box. The Great Apostle is really confused after seeing this, so he tries to cut the box with his Fierce Sword. However, before he can use his skill, Elif uses her Holy Array, commanding her guardian to crush the Great Apostle. After that, The box starts getting smaller and smaller. The great apostle asks Elif to show some mercy. There is no need to do this. He doesn't want to die. However, Elif doesn't listen. She crushes the great apostle and turns him into a purple ring, saving Blue Sword. After that, she takes a sigh of relief. However, she was a little careless with this move, but luckily she defeats the great apostle who is more powerful than her. Meanwhile, Blue Sword doesn't look good, and Elif gives him a really good beating. Mr. Boss, after seeing this fight, thinks, Leping and Elizabeth should be satisfied with this now, right? Leping is really surprised after seeing that the masked girl is Elif. He says to Elizabeth, it turns out to be Elif. No wonder she looks familiar. He asks Elizabeth if she still remembers them, the father and daughter who came to live with them a few months ago. However, Elizabeth is not looking happy. She looks back at Mr. Boss, saying who told them to reveal themselves like this. Mr. Boss gets too scared to see that Elizabeth is looking at him angrily. He immediately apologizes, saying, you two are here, but I didn't wish to ruin your viewing experience, so I didn't disturb you. When Leping heard a familiar voice, he looks back and sees Mr. Boss. Leping waves his hand, saying, Uncle Boss, as expected, you are here too. I just realized Elif was the one fighting. I have a lot of questions to ask you. When Mr. Boss hears that Leping has many questions to ask him, he thinks, is Mr. Leping dissatisfied with our card fighting skills? On the other hand, Sword Guild's elder is very curious to know who Leping is, that Mr. Boss respects so much. After Alina won the competition, Mr. Boss invited Elizabeth and Leping to a gathering. Mr. Boss asked Elizabeth and Leping to please take their seats. However, Leping was really confused, wondering why he was invited to attend this gathering again. Elizabeth replied, saying it's not a bad idea to learn more about the current affairs of the world in preparation to rule it in the future. Leping agreed with Elizabeth, saying yes. But he asked Elizabeth if next time they could simply call it an experience and omit the world domination part. Sword Saint Guild, President Elder Sword, congratulated Mr. Boss for winning the competition. Mr. Boss replied, saying, Elder Sword, we can discuss such small matters later. Please allow me to introduce to you the two distinguished guests first. First, this is the benefactor who saved me and my daughter from the dark apostle, Mr. Leping. And the lady next to him is, however, before they could say Elizabeth's name, she turned her head toward Mr. Boss, her eyes starting to glow red. Mr. Boss and Alina, after seeing Elizabeth like this, got really scared. Both of them understood that they couldn't openly reveal Elizabeth's identity. However, Sword Saint Guild President Elder Sword asked the reason why they couldn't introduce her. Mr. Boss, who was scared and afraid of Elizabeth, didn't know what to say. Leping realized that Mr. Boss must be afraid of revealing Elizabeth's identity as the Demon Queen, as that would shake everyone. That's why he was hesitant. Leping asked Elizabeth if from now on he should call her a novice, suggesting it's better to hide who she is. Elizabeth didn't care and told Leping he could call her whatever he wanted. To make the atmosphere better, Leping took the lead and introduced himself, saying they were from a small nation in the south. He was a minister there, and they could just call him Leping. As for the person next to him, that's their princess. However, the butler standing behind Elder Sword mentioned that a princess from the south? His hometown is there, but he doesn't seem to have heard of them. Mr. Boss agreed with Leping, saying that Leping is right, and his card skills were taught personally by him. Leping, blushing, responded, you're exaggerating. I don't have much talent with cards, but Uncle Boss is the best at it. Actually, I would like to ask Uncle Boss for some advice on swordsmanship too. The yellow-haired girl gets really surprised after hearing this, saying to Blue Sword, did he hear this? He wants to learn swordsmanship after giving such powerful cards? What on earth is he thinking? Blue Sword asks her to be careful. Elder Sword is here, and it's not the time for them to speak. Meanwhile, Alina is really nervous, and she asks Leping if he saw her battle in the square, wondering if her card skills were satisfactory. However, Leping doesn't know what she wants to say. He doesn't know what skills she's talking about. Mr. Boss asks Leping if there was something lacking in her performance and encourages him to be honest. Leping makes a serious face, saying he doesn't have anything to comment on. He just didn't expect them to use his cards like this. Mr. Boss agrees with Leping, saying, of course. How could they compare to Mr. Leping? He was so self-centered that he made copies of the cards and created the guild without Leping's permission. Alina asks for forgiveness from Leping, admitting she may have disappointed him, but that's her limit. However, Leping tells them not to be sorry. If they do it like this, more people should be able to participate. He finds it very good. Alina, after hearing this, asks him if Mr. Leping is saying that most people are actually like them regulars, so their card strategy is suitable for them to learn. Leping agrees, saying it's more suitable for promoting the guild. However, this is a magical world, and he really envies them for their magic. Suddenly, one of the Sword Saint Guild members, Tagore, starts inspecting Leping and Elizabeth, thinking it's getting more and more fun. He uses his demonic eye lens to see Leping and Elizabeth's magic power. However, he gets really surprised after seeing that one is casually exuding huge and domineering magic power, while the other is completely suppressed and doesn't reveal any magic power. Elizabeth finds out that he is using some kind of tool to inspect their power, and she is really angry. Mr. Tagore gets really scared, wondering if he has been discovered. But that's impossible. He used the demonic eye lens to observe them, and there isn't any magic reflection. What's happening? What's this strong sense of oppression? Elizabeth asks Leping that she wants to kill one of them. Leping gets really shocked after hearing this, and asks her who she wants to kill. He asks Elizabeth to wait a minute, suggesting they leave any questions for the end of the gathering, thinking she shouldn't make things difficult for Uncle Boss. Elizabeth becomes really happy after seeing the pudding, and her anger immediately cools down. Elder Sword asks everyone to calm down, enough chit-chat, and let's go back to the topic at hand. This time, through the competition, he has invited a few people here. He wants to discuss an alliance as they urgently need to encircle and suppress the Dark Guild. He asks Butler Ash to show them. Ash puts a bag on the table and asks everyone to take a look, explaining that these are the dark gears collected from the initial stage of the competition to the finals from each player using the Sword of Purification. Plus, Gaola from the Giant Bear Guild, making it 30 pieces in total. Leping becomes really surprised after seeing this because he doesn't know what dark gear is. Mr. Boss explains that as long as anyone accepts the Dark Guild's power, such gears will grow into their body. He also found such gears in the bodies of the apostles he hunted. The Dwarf Guild president is also really surprised after seeing 30 pieces, wondering if the infiltration of the Dark Guild is well spread. However, the yellow-haired girl asks everyone if Gaola passed the Sword of Purification's test before, and if he accepted the power after that. Red-haired girl Anna says no, and explains that there's another possibility. The Dark Guild could have found a way to avoid purification. Mr. Tagore tells everyone that only those with the lowest degree of fusion can be detected through purification. In the other two cases, they can basically hide in plain sight. In the first case, the fusion degree is the lowest, the host cannot bear it, and suffers the backlash, turning into a dark apostle akin to a puppet. In the second case, the host can bear it but cannot control it, turning into what they saw on the square today. Eventually, the host becomes a container that gives birth to the great apostle. In the third case, the host can fully control it and gains the power of the Demon King. Their power improves by leaps and bounds, and they become a pillar demon servant of the Dark Guild. However, no matter what kind of change it is, they must still obey the orders of the person who gave them these powers. They become the Dark Guild's loyal servant. Blue Sword asks everyone if he almost became a great apostle back then. Mr. Tagore replies that who knows, he was controlled but not fully integrated. Otherwise, with his skills, he would have become a pillar demon. Elder Sword also agrees with Mr. Tagore, saying fortunately, Mr. Boss came to help. Otherwise, he might not be able to handle this with these old bones of his. Mr. Boss is really happy to help because in the past, he used to be a member of the Sword Saint Guild, so he should help. However, Blue Sword, when the guild was in trouble, was on a mission outside and was unable to fight the Dark Guild. But today, he saw the card skills that killed the 6 pillar demons, so he is convinced of his defeat, saying Alina is really strong. However, Alina replies that, no matter how he looks at it, the main reason for her win is the powerful cards of Mr. Leping. After hearing this, the Dwarf Guild president asks Leping if he made these cards and where he learned that blacksmithing skill. Not just cards. The sword he carried on his back isn't simple either. Leping replies that he just likes to do some handiwork at home to kill some time. There's no blacksmithing involved. The Dwarf Guild president thinks that Leping is so humble, and the yellow-haired girl says that if the Sword Saint were here, the Dark Guild wouldn't dare invade. Red-haired girl Anna asks her to stop, not to talk too much. In front of everyone, Leping, after hearing this, gets really curious and asks Uncle Bose if the Sword Saint is the strongest swordsman and where the Sword Saint is now. However, Mr. Bose hesitates to answer this question, saying it might not be a good idea for him to state his opinion. After all, he's no longer a member of the Sword Saint Guild. But Elder Sword, after seeing this, says to Mr. Bose that it's okay. He can talk about the Sword Saint. This cannot be hidden for long. Some news has begun to spread already. The Dwarf Guild president gets really surprised, wondering if the rumors he heard are true. Mr. Tagore explains that after the rebellion of the Sword Saint Guild, not only has their combat power been severely depleted, but their Sword Saint has been missing too. That's why the Dark Guild took this chance to attack. Elder Sword replies that it's true. After the Sword Saint sent information from the mountains half a year ago, there has been no information since. However, Leping is really confused and doesn't know what they are talking about. Butler Ash explains that, to be precise, he should have gone to arrest Elder Axe who betrayed the guild, but he hasn't returned yet. According to Blue Sword, in his previous mission, he was supposed to go to the mountains and help the Sword Saint according to the coordinates. But when he arrived, there was no one there. However, the yellow-haired girl is confused because the Sword Saint has been promoted to a 5-star demon sovereign, 1 foot into the Demon King realm. Shouldn't it be easy to arrest the elder who has just been promoted to demon sovereign? Blue Sword says that no one doubts the power of the Sword Saint, but when he rushed to the mountains that day, his sword's tracks were everywhere. Still, when he climbed the mountain, he got really surprised after what he just saw. He saw half of the region was reduced to flat ground. It's hard to imagine what a terrifying battle they must have had there. Elder Sword explains that Elder Axe obtained a supreme magic weapon. All he knows is that it's a giant axe named Demon Burial, exuding terrifying resentment, and its power is so significant that the Elder can make up for the strength gap between him and the Sword Saint. However, according to the Dwarf Guild president, he went through all the S-class weapons forged by the Dwarf Kingdom, and he didn't find the axe Elder Sword described. He thinks it's also a masterpiece of the Dark Guild. Leping whispers and asks Alina, "Who is this elder? Why did he betray the Sword Saint Guild?" Mr. Boss explains that the president of the guild is the Sword Saint, and under the Sword Saint, there are 5 elders who assist him in handling various affairs and guiding the disciples. The person next to him is Elder Sword, in charge of swordsmanship, and there are 4 other elders: Elder Dagger, Elder Spear, Elder Shield, and Elder Axe. But as Elder Axe betrayed the guild and launched the rebellion, Elder Dagger and Elder Spear were brutally killed by him. Elder Shield later died in the battle with the pillars of the Dark Guild, so now Elder Sword is the only one with seniority in the guild. During the rebellion, many took that chance to betray them, including Elder Sword's most valued son, C. Buckthorn Tereus. Leping, after hearing the name Tereus, asks Elder Sword if he is a sword-wielding centaur, wondering if his son is actually a centaur. Elder Sword asks Leping if he met his son and how he is doing now. Leping, without any second thought, says he's dead. However, Elder Sword tells Leping that it doesn't matter anymore. This is the fate of the traitor. The combination of many factors has caused the Sword Saint Guild to be in its most unstable times. So, he wants everyone to unite to fight against the Dark Guild. The Dwarf Guild president asks Elder Sword if they just provide them with weapons, the Dwarf Kingdom will have no problem. However, for A or S level weapons, due to the lack of grinding stones, it would be hard to achieve, although his father is already thinking of a solution. Mr. Tagore asks Elder Sword, "You are in your most unstable times now. Why do you think you can destroy the Dark Guild with our help?" Elder Sword replies, saying that it depends on Boss. He thinks Boss should give up on his own guild and return to serve as the vice president of the Sword Saint Guild. Mr. Boss gets really surprised and asks Elder Sword if he really wants him to serve as the vice president. However, he is afraid that it's not proper. After all, he has left the guild for a while now. Elder Sword explains that Mr. Boss is more suitable than he thinks. Cards can be regarded as weapons, just like daggers and flying knives. If Mr. Boss becomes a vice president of the Sword Saint Guild, they can open a new unit and let Alina serve as the elder. However, Alina is really nervous, saying she is not qualified to be an elder of the Sword Saint Guild. Elder Sword says as long as Mr. Boss agrees, he guarantees that everything will go smoothly. The resources of the guild will be used as Mr. Boss wishes, and even he will obey his orders. Butler Ash says, "Senior Boss, the elder is truly sincere in his intentions. The vice president position means you are one person above 10,000. This is much easier than establishing your own guild. Please consider this suggestion. After that, Mr. Boss turns his head toward Leping, asking what he thinks, wondering with the aid of the Sword Saint Guild's fame, wouldn't the card skill be spread around faster? Leping gets really surprised, saying, "Uncle Boss, are you asking me for advice? There is a saying in my hometown that it's much easier to become a senior executive in a large company than starting your own. However, those who are more ambitious will choose to start their own business, so this still depends on their own personal desires." Leping is thinking, as a person with no ambition, he shouldn't be giving advice to others. But Mr. Bose misunderstands Leping's words, thinking, does he think he needs to be someone's accessory to elevate himself? If you only have that much ambition, then he is really disappointed in him. However, Mr. Boss is in a tough situation, wondering if Mr. Leping is trying to aid him. But Elder Sword is so stingy. To reject him directly on such an occasion would be not giving him face. He would offend the entire Sword Saint Guild. Elder Sword asks Mr. Boss if he is still dissatisfied. Feel free to put forward any conditions. Mr. Boss stands up from his seat and says, "Elder Sword, you don't need to say anything else. I established my own guild not because I wanted to pursue fame and wealth, but because I wanted to elevate my card skills," Mr. Boss states. He then asks Leping if he can see that his will is firm. Elder Sword asks Mr. Boss if he has thought this through. However, Elder Sword is really surprised and can't feel the aura of this strong man called Leping, suggesting that being taught by him must be an excuse to hide his background. Leping replies, saying yes, good conditions. But he thought that he could rely on his connections to Uncle Boss to learn swordsmanship from the Sword Saint Guild. After that, Mr. Boss refuses to return to the guild, but assures Elder Sword not to worry, explaining that it's his responsibility to eliminate the Dark Guild, and his guild will fully support the Sword Saint Guild in the future. Elder Sword agrees with Mr. Boss, saying he understands. However, according to the agreement, the Sword Saint Guild will recognize the legitimacy of Mr. Boss's card guild. Leping doesn't know what to say. He can only express that Uncle Boss is very courageous. However, for Mr. Boss, the most important thing is Leping's satisfaction, and they have worked really hard to satisfy Leping. Meanwhile, Elder Sword asks Dwarf Guild President, Prince Brian, when the king will return from seclusion, as the provision of A and S level weapons can greatly enhance their combat power. Prince Brian replies that he can't tell Elder Sword, but the shortage of grinding stones is a big issue, and the entire kingdom can't find a proper substitute. The Aristotle kingdom refuses to cooperate, so his father is researching in seclusion. However, they can't do anything right now. Elder Sword doesn't know what to do, so he asks Mr. Tagore what he thinks about the request for the weapons and combatants spell. Mr. Tagore is a neutral party, but if he just casts spells for Elder Sword, it won't be a big issue. Elder Sword then asks everyone to reach a mutual understanding of their plan. He suggests that in 2 months, they will gather their forces, try their best to solve the issues at hand, and asks if anyone has questions. Suddenly, Leping raises his hand and asks Elder Sword if he can join. Elder Sword gets really surprised and asks Leping if he means he wants to join the battle against the Dark Guild too. Leping replies, saying no. What he means is Elder Sword Guild recruiting people? He wants to sign up to learn swordsmanship. Although he has been idle for a long time, it's not too late to start learning again. Mr. Boss asks Leping if he is joking and why he wants to learn swordsmanship. Leping explains that it was Princess Elizabeth who arranged for him to do this. As for why, they have to ask her. Mr. Boss and Elena, after seeing Elizabeth, do not dare to ask Leping if his plan makes sense. Elder Sword agrees with Leping, but there are many kinds of swordsmanship, so he asks Leping which one he wants to learn and what his magic level is. Leping replies that he tested it before, and it seems to be very low, explaining that he is not very good at magic. Butler Ace says that if Leping is not good with magic, he will have no way of using the magic sword taught by Elder Sword. After hearing this, Leping asks if there are no ordinary swordsmanship that doesn't need magic power. Elder Sword replies that, of course, there is. However, there's only one person who has mastered this kind of swordsmanship, and that person is the president of the Sword Saint Guild, Sword Saint. If Leping finds her, she'll definitely teach him. Mr. Boss also agrees with Elder Sword, saying only the ones qualified to teach Leping are the Sword Saint. Leping, after hearing this, starts crying, thinking the Sword Saint is missing, and how can he find her? Obviously, they think he's not worthy and refuse to help him. Suddenly, Mr. Tagore asks everyone to wait, uses some kind of magic spell, and suddenly a book appears. He writes something in that book, and suddenly the magic spell starts floating in the air. He says that it just so happens that he has recorded some sword skills spells, so maybe they can help Leping. He gives those spells to Leping, who gets really happy and asks Mr. Tagore how to use them. Meanwhile, Elizabeth has finished eating her pudding, and Leping asks her to look at the spell that records swordsmanship skills. However, Elizabeth doesn't pay any attention to Leping and instantly goes back to business. She gets rid of this bug that's acting clever in front of her. Meanwhile, on the other side, in the desert, a fight is going on. The one who is fighting is the Sword Saint, Chichi Saugus, the president of the Sword Saint Guild. She asks Elder Axe to come out and not hide. Elder Axe asks her, "What is your problem? What are you trying to do by pestering me?" She replies that she must clear up his crime of joining with the Dark Guild and eliminate him today. So she uses her sword chi technique and attacks Elder Axe. However, Elder Axe uses his demonic axe to block the Sword Saint's attack. Elder Axe uses the power of the demonic axe to counterattack against the Sword Saint, but she dodges his attacks without any problem. Elder Axe says that as the integration between him and the demon burial becomes deeper, the Sword Saint's threat level becomes lower. Soon, it will be his turn to harm the Sword Saint. However, the Sword Saint does not care. She warns Elder Axe that if he continues with his stubbornness and unrepentance, he will soon be completely controlled by this axe and lose himself, asking him to wake up and accept reality. However, Elder Axe doesn't care if he's losing himself, explaining that after experiencing this supreme power, he will know losing himself is a privilege. It'll be all fine soon. He asks the demon burial to take over his body, and suddenly Elder Axe's body starts changing. He becomes a female. After the demon burial takes control over Elder Axe's body, she says, finally coming out, resentment. "You dare to abandon me? I won't let you go."